Ready to go, Sean?
What?
You ready?
I'm ready, man.
Okay. I'm not waiting for Kevin. No, he's gonna be a little late. He thought he would be here. He'd sit out.
He never called me, so he'll probably get me after the meeting, so I can't wait, yes.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
15 seconds, we'll start.
Here, so you can be official.
I don't think I've ever used it. Okay, I'd like to bring the Upper Moreland Township Community Development Committee meeting to order. We have myself, Commissioner Patridge, we have Commissioner Anthony Peruzzi, we have Jim Hirsch is here from our engineering from Gilmore. We have Sean Kilkenny, our solicitor from Kilkenny Law. We have Paul Pertell as our, I was going to say zoning. I'm used to that after 15 years. Yeah, he's that too. Okay. Dave Alseer from our not code enforcement, Public Works. And let me see. Did I get everybody? Oh, Randy.
There he is.
And here's Kevin. We have Randy, our Assistant Township Manager. Matt Canlin will not be here. You only have to sit down. Please stand for the pledge. Any announcements, Randy, that we have?
No, there's no announcement.
Okay. We did roll call, no presentations, no announcements. You can start if you're ready. Okay. Give him a minute. What's that?
Let's just go right down the line right now. Anyone here from the school district? Okay, we'll let that wait.
Approval of minutes.
That's where we're
Yeah,
at. Approval of the minutes from October 17th.
I have no changes.
Thanks.
Yeah, I have no comments either.
Okay, very good. Discussion of the proposed site, Spring Hill Suites property. Anyone here?
Yes, we are.
All right. Come on up to the podium.
Is there a way I can bring a presentation up?
They're in a process, yeah. Are you connected?
I'm connected.
Okay, here you go.
So I'm Mark Kaplan, and I represent GM Equities. An affiliate of GM Equities bought the Spring Hill Suites out of a bankruptcy. And my clients are primarily in the apartment business. They're also in the hotel business. And they've got to make a decision as to what to do going forward with this property. I'm going to let them get more into the details, but from an overall point of view, I got this property approved 20-some years ago when it was the tennis courts.
Yep.
And it's scary, isn't it? And this was a brand-new hotel, clients from someplace in Buffalo. Well, it's run its life expectancy. It's got a flag being, Marriott, but that's a license. And in order to maintain that license, it's a 20-year cycle. Marriott's going to require or is requiring them to spend $5 to $6 million to redo this property. I think that some of you who are commissioners know that a tax appeal was taken on this property, and it was settled last week, coincidentally. The original valuation was somewhere around $19 million. Based on the actual purchase price, the value is half of that, somewhere between $8 and $9 million. And I don't think it takes much to figure out that it doesn't make sense in a down market like this to invest another $5 or $6 million just to keep a flag. And we're going to give you a little bit of background information. You know this probably better than we do, where all the hotels are, the motels, the suites. They're all over this quadrant up here.
Apartments also.
Apartments too. Yes, you're right, there are apartments. The hotels are not doing well. There's a thing called Star Reports, I believe it is, in the hotel business, and they report on occupancy. How they get their information, I don't know, but they report on occupancy. And the occupancy seems to be uniformly in the 40%. And that's not gonna keep anybody in good shape. So we think that this particular hotel product lends itself to a conversion to apartments. And I'm going to let Seth Shapiro and Max, who understand it, we've got really detailed drawings about what the conversion would be like. But I wanted to just give the introduction, where it is, what the dilemma is now, what our choices are. And I guess there's one more thing from an introductory point of view. This is going on all over the country. I asked my client a couple of months ago when he said this, let me see where else is this going on. So they push Google search or whatever, and they talk about hotel conversions. I got a list of articles about that law from all over the country. And if anybody's really interested, we could get those articles, but it seems to be self-evident. So, Seth or Max? Max, you want to give more of a background in your background, and then we'll have Seth do the pictures.
Okay. Good evening, Max Sternstein. Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. Just to add a little bit to what he said, just to give some background. I am a partner in GM Equities. It's a real estate company primarily focused on apartments. We have approximately 6,000 apartments that we own and manage. We're a fully integrated real estate company, which means that we handle all parts of the real estate life cycle, which would mean we build from ground up, we purchase existing, we do large renovations of apartments. For this particular project, this was a 10X. I don't know if the board's familiar with that. That's a very large auction site, national site, that sells distressed assets from primarily lenders. So this was in foreclosure and was taken over by the lender in the middle of COVID. Not surprising, as everybody knows, hotels were closed. I believe this was no exception, and hotels which were closed, a lot of owners were keeping them alive for after COVID. Everybody believed COVID would eventually pass. This hotel had an additional challenge, which Mark mentioned, that it's a flag, Marriott flag, which is potentially one of the best flags, maybe even the best flag, has a 20-year life cycle. What that means is every 20 years, they mandate a full renovation of the hotel. So I believe the old owner said to himself, I'm facing this, what's called in the industry a PIP, of $6.7 million was the amount that Marriott wanted the owners to put forth so that Marriott could do a full renovation. That's how Marriott keeps their standard where it is. And being that it was closed in COVID, the owner took the other choice of just letting it go back to the lender. So we stepped in to purchase it. We actually joint ventured with a hotel group. We're not hotel experts. Our business strategy very much was that COVID would pass. We were purchasing it at a distressed point with our hotel operator that we partnered with. The name is Rosedev. They have approximately a dozen hotels. If the hotel business was to bounce back, we would be buying it at a good price and be able to run a profitable hotel. If it didn't bounce back as apartment operators and developers, we really saw the footprint and the actual building as something that would work for apartments. Now, what we've come to learn in the hotel business is that most hotels are now back to where things were pre-COVID. When I say most hotels, hotels are really divided into two main categories. Hotels that are driving business from tourism, hotels that are driving business from business travel. Obviously, you get a lot of overlap. Those that are based on tourism, we see in the market that they're pretty much back to pre-COVID, some of them even doing better than it did before COVID. Those that are more business orientated, which this hotel seems to be, are still struggling for two reasons, which I'm sure everybody reads about in the press. One is that people are not back in the office the way it used to be. So if you have office business that's driving your hotel business, which is the case for this particular hotel, you're not getting those people back in the offices. Another very, very big contributing factor is Zoom. People became very, very comfortable with Zoom. So depending on what type of business you're in, a lot of business is being done remotely, and the business travel very much is down. In this particular hotel, our revenue at this hotel is still about 25% below pre-COVID numbers. We don't see that changing in any significant way in the future. We don't think that it could improve slightly, but we don't see a significant change. The other big factor that is affecting us is really cost expense that has gone up. Inflation is something that's very real, in particular in wages. Hotels are very wage heavy. So the double combination of decreased income and increased expenses is definitely weighing on the hotel. And we have a deadline with Marriott. They've kindly extended the requirement to maintain their flag and do the renovation, not just to us, but a lot of their hotels due to COVID. And that's going to come to an end at some point when Marriott believes that COVID is done and now it's time to get back to business. So from our perspective, we are being proactive, trying to work out what would make sense from a business perspective over here. And that's why we're here at the board. We don't think that a investment of the amount that we have at the moment from Marriott of $6.7 million to renovate the hotel would be warranted based on our current numbers, based on the occupancy of the competing group. On this map, you'll see we've divided up the hotels in the area in two different colors. The purple ones are the hotels that Marriott believes, in their professional opinion, to be our competition. And the green ones are also very much in our area, but for different reasons won't be direct competition to ours. So we believe that we really have in our mind two choices of how to proceed. We could either proceed by giving up the Marriott flag and moving to a more budget style hotel, which generally is the type of hotel that has people staying more than just 1 or 2 nights, a couple of weeks, maybe a month at a time, what they call extended stay hotels, non-branded. Definitely, we think that there's an option for it. It would still not be overly profitable, but it would be a viable potential option. And the other option, which is why we are here, would be to consider an apartment conversion from a hotel to apartments. This, as I mentioned earlier, this hotel layout, it's an all-suite hotel. The average suite is about 400 square feet. Currently, every room has a bedroom, a living room, dining room, kitchen, bathroom. So to some degree, it's already set up as an apartment. Obviously, there are differences that would need to be done. This would need to be renovated. We're not just switch the switch and call it an apartment. It needs a significant investment from our perspective, a few $1 million of upgrades. Besides for the units which would need to be upgraded for longer term tenancy, the kitchen would have to be changed. If somebody who stays even in a suite hotel doesn't have the same type of kitchen as somebody that lives over there, storage would have to be taken into consideration. Those points will allow the plan to talk about more at length, but what I'll talk about from a business perspective, the big difference would be the amenity space. So the type of apartments that are being envisioned over here are going to be smaller apartments, as I mentioned. Average square footage is going to be 400 square feet. And the way these apartment buildings with smaller apartments generally operate is they are amenity heavy. Because your living space is more limited, it's going to attract a younger, what we usually would call a younger professional working tenancy, and that tenancy is generally very interested in the amenities. So we'd be looking at a lot of co-working space, big lounge areas, game areas, where people could work, socialize, so that compensates for the size of the units. And we've been successful with this type of product in other places, in particular in Philadelphia itself, where we found a lot of success with this, and we believe that this would be very appropriate over here. Like I said, the purpose of our presentation and coming here really is to make a business decision internally which direction we should go if there was a possibility of moving in the apartment direction. That we believe would be much better financially and obviously much better suited for us, and we would assume potentially our success would flow through to the town. One point that I also mentioned, which Mark mentioned, was that currently there's a lot of hotels. That's what I have this map over there. And because the hotel demand is down, everybody's occupancy is down. So if we were to be pulled out as a hotel, we would be benefiting everybody. Obviously, if somebody else would be doing the same, our hotel could become more viable. But being that we're the suite hotel, there are a few others that are also suites, but we are the suite hotel, and the way the hotel was built, we think it's very much well suited for apartments. We think we would be a good candidate for a conversion.
So when Max first called me and I heard about this, I was as skeptical as I could be. I couldn't imagine that you'd be able to really rent something at 400 square feet. And I was skeptical of, I knew what this place looked like. How are you going to turn it into something that's attractive? And we brought Seth Shapiro in from Barton Partners that does apartments all over. And I got to tell you, you'll see the presentation. I was blown away when I saw the presentation. The amenity space, the overall redo of the whole thing. You know what? I'll keep quiet because the pictures.
No, you won't.
I'll try. Seth, get up here and tell the story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Seth Shapiro from Barton
say?
Partners. You said Shapiro.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's only Shapiro in Philadelphia.
Okay.
My parents are from New York. I'm actually just going to do a brief few slides to show you the gist of it. I think you actually all have, I see printouts, so you have all of the units. I also, when we were called about this, was skeptical. In fact, as you can imagine, being multifamily experts that my firm is, we're getting calls daily about conversions, not just hotels, but I actually had to tell someone, I think it was last Thursday, that their huge floor plate suburban 1980s office building wasn't a candidate for residential conversions. Just rip the building down. That's the only way to do it. And in fact, some hotels don't actually convert very well either. And so we were a little bit skeptical, and we dove into it. I had one of my sort of code experts actually run this show, and we were surprised. So let me show you what we came up with. So here is the building itself. Maryland Road sits on the right. I believe that's Commerce. It's not Drive, it's Commerce Road, I think, here, to the north. This is actually an altered site plan because right now the building looks like a hotel, right? It looks like a typical branded Spring Hill Suites hotel. The only change that we would really do to the site plan is we would keep that pickup and drop-off zone, which actually is really important in sort of high-end modern multifamily, because a lot of the people who live there, if they're going out for the evening, actually Uber and Lyft, and don't actually drive themselves, and also the idea of sort of e-commerce, the pickup and drop-offs of packages and whatnot is a huge thing. So we always actually like to add these pickup and drop-off zones. We have one here, so all we did was actually take the porte cochere off. I think you actually have this drawing in your packet. It shows that we have a conversion to 155 units in this building. So the top is what the building looks like today as a Spring Hill Suites, and the bottom is our sort of concept of how we would turn this into something that's a little bit more like a residential building, and ripping that big porte cochere off and changing the color scheme. I think the Paragon was a brand or a theme that we talked about coming up with, but that's the idea of the building. It's a 4-story building. It's very typical of what you would see in a modern multifamily building. And again, just from a better standpoint, there's a before image of what it looks like today, and then after. So we think we actually succeeded in turning, what is sort of a hotel built, you said 20 years ago? Something very typical that was built 20 years ago, something that would be a little bit more of a contemporary multifamily building today. As Max had mentioned, and this is true in all of the multifamily buildings that we're doing, amenities, everything. There's usually a good rule of thumb that we use is between 30 and 40 square feet of common amenity area per unit. This is, I think, close to double that, actually. One, because the units are smaller, and two, because we actually have it built in already. Because of the way this hotel was constructed and the uses that were down there, we have tons of amenity space available to us, including an indoor pool. I've done thousands upon thousands of units and lots of communities, still have yet to do an indoor pool. We already have one here. And as Max said, the common areas, the work share spaces, the storage areas, the lounges, they're all there. And they very sort of naturally fit into what is already the common area of this building. So that was an easy conversion. And then we get to the units. I'm not going to go through every unit type, but this is a very typical one that we have here. This is just about 400 square feet, and you can see on the left side, and actually you see a lot of sort of code-oriented language over here. As I said, our internal QC/code expert is the one who I had run this project because we wanted to make sure that we were getting all of the sort of the code issues right here. So you can see the conversion from the left. These are the existing units. They have a little kitchenette, a small bathroom. They all have living and bedroom areas. And on the right side would be how that is actually converted with a real kitchen, a real bathroom, dealing with the accessibility issues, the bedroom up front, the living area in the middle, and a small dining area. Very typical of suburban studio. As I mentioned, I think in your packets are sort of almost all of the other unit type conversions. I don't think there's any need to get into the nitty-gritty details. If you want us to do that, I will need to bring one of my partners here to talk about that, the guy who ran this. But we wanted to give you sort of a broad overview of this. This is one of those projects, as Mark said, that was, oh yeah, that does work. So there it is. Happy to answer any questions, or if you guys want to.
That's really our presentation. Obviously, we don't fit into the existing zoning scheme, so we'd have to do something. I'm not going to speculate on how to do that. I'd rather us, if you're inclined to say okay to this, then Sean and I can sit down and figure out, is this an overlay, whatever it is. There's a whole series of different zoning schemes, so to speak, that we could try and work on. But I want to say one more thing to my client's credit. I said to them when they came with this idea, I said, you only get one opportunity to make your first best impression. And we're not going into the township with something that's going to be onion sheets, and what do you think about this? And I think this is, the presentation that they authorized Seth to put together is emblematic of the quality that I think you will see here. This took like 4 months to get done, so.
Well, it's a very interesting proposal, and I would be shocked about 400 square foot units being marketable. But if you say so, you know, I'll see more of that, I'm sure. What is the zoning there? There's not permissible for residential?
It's C2 zoning.
Yeah.
The mid-rise apartments are permitted, but there are conditions that they cannot comply with, which would require a text amendment or a trip to the ZHB for relief.
Basically, in that district, it would have to be a TOD project to really fit.
Right, it's got to be, you have to be
I
within
think
a
that's
rail.
right. I think that's what I looked at. But
Now, there'd be a lot of other things that, you know, you're gonna run into, is obviously the street sidewalks have gotta be 5 feet, they're not even there. You know, there's all kinds of other things that we would require, but really, for the zoning part of it, that's the main thing, is, normally, we wouldn't approve this unless it's next to a train station and, you know, transportation.
So I'm curious, when you talk about amenities, everything internal, or would there be like possibilities of multi-use at this site?
when you say,
Multi-use would be like another application of a public use. People coming in the public to use a restaurant.
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know how to answer that from the marketing point of view. I know this, that over the last, God, what is it, 10 years, everybody has said multi-use, put the retail on the first floor, or put apartments upstairs, and none of it's worked. It hasn't gotten built for whatever reason. Max or Seth?
I can't get inside anybody's head. I just want to know if it's ever been, if it's been considered from this application.
I think what was considered from this application is they're smaller units, therefore we must maximize the amount of amenity space. And maybe, Seth, you walked through that amenity space too quickly, and maybe you ought to put that drawing back up and explain what each aspect of it is.
Mark, just real quick too. Maybe about 2 months ago, myself, Paul, Matt, much of staff sat down with them, and they put on a nice presentation like they did here. Staff was relatively agnostic. They said it's really a board decision on what you want to do. But I remember there was more, talking about the 400 feet and the size. I think you put on a more robust discussion of how it's worked in other places, or the idea of that. Maybe that could be informative for the board. That's all.
Well, Max and David bought a project in Brewery Town not long ago from basically from John Westrop. And, you know, Brewery Town is mostly young people. It's over near Penn. It's at 29th and Girard, where I don't know that I would want to go, but it's really been developed and it's very young. So, Max?
Yeah, so we did discuss, it's a project we purchased, just finished the 1 year anniversary, called, actually two projects, one across each other. One of them's called the Hub, one's called the Point, both in Brewery Town. One's 201 apartments, one's 50 apartments, so they run as one complex. Very amenity heavy, especially for the city, meaning usually in the city there's more limitations in space. We have a pool, which is very unusual in Philadelphia, but the building is made up primarily of studios that are 400 square feet exactly, and 1 bedrooms that are 500 square feet. That's really all we got over there. A few 2 bedrooms, like a handful for design purposes that were filled in, 90% plus are these studios and the one bedrooms, and our demand is excellent. We're pretty much 100% full all the time. And it's the best way I would put it, which we discussed last time I was there. It's not that people are okay with 400 feet. They actually prefer it. It's a way of life. I'm sure you've all heard of WeWork. We compare it to WeWork in terms of the office space. The office people that are taking WeWork office, they actually prefer it. Obviously, established businesses, etc., don't go for a temporary office. So this is for somebody who's going to live there for a year or two. It's not for somebody who's going to make it their home and raise a family there. It's for single people, and they actually like the fact that the setup is that there's much more interaction, there's much more socializing, because that's the type of environment that you're creating, an environment that's amenity heavy, public space heavy. The same idea as WeWork. People go to work, they like the fact they're interacting with other people, and this concept is taken even to more extremes. 400 square feet is considered a regular old style apartment in this new way of doing apartments. There are much smaller ones, what they call micro apartments, which are very popular in big cities, that are even smaller than this. This 400 is almost a bridge between, you could still have your space, you have your own lounging area, your own kitchen, and you still get the effect of living in a co-living, but very light co-living. That's the way we would call it.
So walk us through
You're
those
fine.
different
I'm gonna ask you one
spaces
question.
and tell us what they are.
Again, this is a concept, so it's not set in stone, but you walk into a lobby, which is not particularly unusual. On the left, if you're walking in, would be offices that are used by the management, leasing offices, etc. So that's not really part of the amenities. But as you walk to the right, you'll notice two large rooms. One of them is going to be a club area, which is going to have, as an example, pool tables, table tennis tables, game tables, place for socializing. One's called a game room, the next one's called a lounge. Same idea, you'll have different areas where people can sit, socialize, work on their laptop. That is your hub of the social life of the building. If you go across the hallway, where you see the two beige rooms, those are going to be more formal work areas. So they're going to have little cubicles, desks, where people could actually work, sit, and not in a social setting, but more in a work session, a work setting. And then if you walk down the hallway, further down the hallway on the right, you would have your pool, which you mentioned, inside pool. Coming off the pool is an outside porch area. You would have porch furniture for when the weather's good, for people could lounge outside. And then across the hallway, we would have a gym area, which is more of a traditional amenity that you have in an apartment. So this this large amenity area that you have downstairs really gives people the ability to connect, socialize, and we found that that's very, very important to a specific demographic, usually young professionals, not exclusively, but a big part of that talks to them, this type of. It's in the city very, very common. In the suburbs, we definitely see it moving towards that. When you mentioned Brewery Town, yes, it's in the city of Philadelphia, but it's not city center. It's not your traditional, very urban setting. It's a border.
Let me ask you about that Brewery Town Association. So if I come, let's take that structure that you have in Brewery Town. If I walk out the front door of your complex in Brewery Town, how far do I have to go to the left or the right to go to a bar or restaurant?
I would say definitely walking distance, 3 blocks, 4 blocks. But the area over there's definitely some restaurants. I think that a lot of our tenants that are living in our building would be going further out for their social life, but there definitely is a place you want to get a quick bite, or you want to get a store or something like that. It's in the city, so it's walkable. Over here, without a car, I don't envision people living over here without a car, or very few. Most people that are living here are going to have a car, and that's the nature of more suburb style setting than we can have in Brewery Town.
Good, then we won't be looking for a parking reduction.
No, you would need the parking for each unit, yeah, yeah.
I understand this is a marketable strategy. I don't comprehend it as a marketable strategy in this area. This site does not seem conducive towards 155, 400 square foot apartment complexes. Basically because of what Commissioner Spearing said, there's no, you're amenity heavy within the building, but
It's membership only.
and the way that I see, being an architect also who deals with some of these things on a regular basis, is these types of properties are more successful when you have the ability to leave your home and enjoy the surroundings, because you're not spending much of your time in your work, in your domicile. I don't understand how this works in Willow Grove. I'm curious to hear, though, if you have examples of where you've seen this successful in other densely populated suburbs or suburban locations, because all the examples that you're giving us are fairly urban. Brewery Town might be on the outskirts of Philadelphia, but it's still considered Philadelphia, and it still has the same type of amenity as living in a city.
So my answer to that would be, I don't have offhand examples of entire buildings, but we have many buildings that also have studios in it,
Right.
where the number would be 400 square feet. So if we had a building that was, as an example, 500 units and 20% were studios, 40% were one bedrooms, and 40% were two bedrooms, that 20% would still represent 100 apartments. And we have that in numerous places, and it's very successful. So our thinking is those studios are not there because they're also one and two bedrooms. If those 100 studios were an independent building, logically, they would still have those same tenants there, and maybe I think would even be more attractive because they would be more geared towards that demographic. So I think that if studios work as part of a mix in a building, I think they should work better as a standalone building, especially when you add in more amenities than your average apartment building would have.
Yeah, I'm not discouraged by it. I mean, I believe that, this particular area of the township is ideal for reconsideration of zoning for us. And as far as like, amenities go, we're on the, we're doing a lot of outdoor recreation stuff that we're looking to expand upon and invest in ourselves. I disagree with Mr. Kaplan about a mixed use that's failing, because I really don't think it's been applied properly yet, at least in this township.
Well, that may be true.
ET.
But I want to understand more about what you're thinking about for mixed use here.
Well, like, my question was, you walk outside of a, apartment or a suite, in an urban setting, and you can go, a block to the right and go to a bar or restaurant, or you can go a block to the left and have fine dining, or you can go to another, use that's, I get, what's that bowling alley? In, Northern Lights,
Northern Liberties,
Northern Liberties, yeah.
like Brooklyn Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, like, that kind of, we don't have those applications here, like, so, all these amenities that you're talking about, that may be a way for you to sell this smaller type of studio apartment, or, maybe a little bit bigger than that, to residents that are gonna have all these amenities. That may be something that's attractive, but.
So let me ask you this, put the map up. One thing I noticed in the area, there are a fair amount of apartments
Oh, there's a lot,
mixed in,
Right.
in this area
right?
that don't have what you're talking about, don't have.
Right.
Can you, well, you guys know, you know what there's a substantial number.
Yeah, you don't have to show us a map.
What?
You don't have to show us a map. We know where the apartments are, and personally, my opinion is that if someone comes with, something like this, and they could put a restaurant on the first floor, I think you're gonna get great use for that,
So we could.
because of all these apartments that are nearby. So that's why I asked about these amenities being internal only, like it's private club membership. I have an apartment complex across the street that's got a waiting list for vacancies, for people to get into. And you're aware of it, you did your research on the area. you know, and,
We are absolutely, I think all of us that do this are absolutely amazed at the demand for apartments. It's 2 years past where when I thought it was gonna die.
so, again, you know, you talk about Marriott and, the lifespan of 20 years. So I have to think about that too. What's this gonna look like in 20 years? Are they gonna be looking to switch it back to, hotels again? You know, I have to think about that. And I think I would like to see like more of a mixed-use application. But I'm not opposed to this. You're the ones taking the big risk here.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a business, and it's a profitable business, and I do see the demand for apartments. And for the last 10 years, it's been on the upswing.
I also have two other questions, or two things, I guess, to ask if you've looked into and what your thoughts are. The first one being, the size is conducive to, you know, smaller, more compact living. The price point, I assume, is not a high price point. Is there a consideration for any quantities of suites within this facility to be low-income housing?
Okay, so let me try this for a moment. It all depends on how you define low-income housing. You're an architect, you must know. You get into this, a percentage of average salaries. I made this presentation across the street for the mall. And we wanted to, across the street where we are right now, and we looked at that really hard. And it was interesting that a family at $68,000 a year could afford an apartment. I think it was a one-bedroom, based on applying the HUD requirements to affordable housing. So it all depends on what you're talking about, low-income housing. I will tell you, I looked when we were trying to do the mall, and I have it in my office. There's an enormous amount of apartments available in the Abington, Horsham, Upper Moreland area at lower prices. But tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what would be low income to you.
I'm not gonna get into defining household incomes during this conversation, right? Because I'm not an expert in that, and I can't say that I know the exact price points. But my point being, we have a variety of different housing structures and systems within this community, but we're definitely at a deficit of housing for people who are on the lower end of the spectrum for household incomes. These being smaller, I don't see these being units for families, definitely not.
Oh, no.
This is one person who is an up-and-coming professional, a recent person who's been divorced, or somebody who's down in their luck, right? Like,
Exactly.
moving into a 400 square foot apartment, you have a certain level of living. And that's my thought process here. Like, how do we market, or how do you market this, because I'm not doing it, how do you market this to a larger catchment of people, rather than just for the amenity of it, more for the size of the unit and how it can be useful in helping somebody find housing?
So in an ideal world, you would like to see us make a commitment to some number of units or some percentage of units to some population that you and I don't want to talk about, don't want to try and figure out. Right?
Oh, I want to talk about it, and I want to try to figure it out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to talk about it, and I want to try to figure it out. I just don't want to do it without proper data and proper.
Well, that's what I meant. I'm not, there's nothing wrong with talking about
Right.
affordable housing. I just
Yep.
That formula, I don't know enough about.
Sure.
We'd have to look at that.
Right.
So, Max, I'll speak for you. We'll look at trying to incorporate like a restaurant or something like that.
Boogeyman coming?
Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh,
Morse code.
Mark
A lot
doing
of
the tap
shaking
dance.
Lay off the caffeine, Mark.
let us look.
Sure.
Let us look. So you're interested in some percentage of affordable housing. Mr. Spearing, you're interested in something that would make this mixed use, that would create some additional services, both for maybe the people that are here and some of the people that are in the immediate area. We'll look at it. We'll look at it.
I do have a comment about the affordable housing thing. I don't think there is a formula, and no one's really figured it out just yet. But it is something that we have to, as a community, have our eyes on. And several of us have had this conversation about the long-term plans for affordable housing.
Oh, I've had so many of those discussions. I've had it downtown in Philadelphia. There's an organization right here in the community, I'm trying to remember his name, that came to talk to us about affordable housing in the mall. And the discussion, I'll have to get the information. But the discussion.
He's probably been in this room, too.
Pardon me?
He's probably been in this room,
I'm
too.
sure.
It's okay. So we don't have to swear by somebody else's formula, because I haven't seen one that worked. So, but it is a discussion for every land development. And I can see that, you know, the tendency is going towards the rental versus the hotel thing, and this is a pretty good application. But we see it, you know, in Horsham, we see it around the corner, we have other applications for it, and we understand why this is an interesting area. Commissioner McFadden talks about the potential for a TOD there, but you're talking about everybody having a car. You know, like it's kind of scheming all over the place. So,
The TOD is usually like, Seth, 2,500 feet from, 2,000 feet from a platform. That's right. Train station.
yeah, well, so we have excellent bus system here, you know, and they're always open to other ideas. But yeah, I don't know if that's the right application or not, but I'm not soured by this. I'm just worried about, you know, you talked about how many hotels there are here. I'm worried about how many units of rental we're gonna get saturated with.
If I could just comment on the affordable housing, I understand when you're referencing affordable housing, you mean units that are designated for affordable housing. I think this is an affordable option overall relative to other apartments. The price point will be dictated by the market to be much lower than a large apartment. If you have a single person, a student, or somebody starting out, and their options are to rent a full apartment, having this as an option will be a market-driven affordable option. Our rents would be 20, 30% cheaper than your traditional apartments. That's what our game plan is. So it's making something more affordable. I realize that's not what you're referring to, but it does, to some degree, fill a need for people looking for market rate affordable units. That's really what this creates.
And then my last question was, were there any studies about merging any of these units to create double-sized units or one bedroom, two bedroom, instead of all studios?
So again, it's definitely something that's an option. The remaining units, in other words, let's say we took half the building, just as whatever the percentage would be, and we turned them into more traditional units. That mix of traditional units and the smaller units in the same building, we feel would be detrimental. But like I mentioned, I have this building in Brewerytown, the hub. It's all small units. It's all young professionals. There are no families. There are no family-style tenants over there, children, etc. it's just much more cohesive. But it could be done. It's been done traditionally where you have studios 1s and 2s, but then usually the studios is a small percentage and they're almost an add-on. We're trying to turn that around and say, let's not look at the small as a disadvantage. Let's create it in a way that it's a plus. This is what people are looking for ideally. You would have people moving in Brewerytown where we have applicants. Some of the incomes are very high. A lot of the people are coming there because they're students, et cetera, and they're looking for what's the least expensive unit in the market. But we have many people that have very high incomes and could easily afford a 2-bedroom apartment. They're coming there because this is their preferred style of apartment. So that was our concept. Instead of saying, oh, we have a small unit, let's not to make too many of them, we're turning it around and say, let's design it in such a way that the size is actually a plus.
Kip?
My reserve when I'm looking at it, and I didn't have any before I came in, I just wanted to hear. Bless you.
Thank you.
We keep referring it to Brewerytown. I just pulled up Brewerytown. There's pizza shops, within walking, pizza shop, bookstore, nutrition shops, bars, restaurants, all walk out the door and walk right to it. This is, to me, this is a very small apartment, and I get that. Some people would like the small apartment, but those people that you're talking about can walk anywhere, walk right out, and it's right there. You're in the city. And my thing is, this isn't the city. So is somebody going to want to live, and I'm not just today, I'm saying 10 years from now, in this atmosphere without being able to walk to somewhere? So your internal amenities is the only thing they have, except for the car. They have to drive somewhere to go somewhere. That's the first thing that hits me looking at it for the size of the apartment. The other thing is, there's going to be a substantial, I don't want to approve something either. Let's say it's not going to be a TOD. Let's say we just wipe that out and, okay, you can put an apartment. I don't want to have to change 500 waivers to make this fit, 6 sidewalks all the way around the property, all these things. We're not willing to do all these waivers, if there are. I do not know because I haven't gone through it. I'm used to the zoning aspect of it and some of that. That's the other thing. I don't know how much it's going to change the application if we did approve it as just apartments. Because we would expect you to change it to what we've made everybody else do in the area. So, to our codes. And again, these are just things I'm throwing out because I don't know.
And we did not go that far.
Okay, and that's,
We're trying to figure out what to do with this building
yeah.
and how to make it work. So I don't know the extent of the variances or whatever. I suspect that there are many because this was built for a different purpose. I said it before, I think Sean's heard me say this before. When you start talking about a zoning change, I like to put aside the how. Let's decide on whether or not this is the use that you want, and then let us try and figure it out. Maybe it'll be too many things, maybe it'll be too many deviations, I don't know. But we can look at it, but we've got some homework to do. I mean, we hear what you're saying. We hear what you're saying about, do we integrate something else into this that makes it mixed use, that will attract other people or will serve the people in this building? I get that. And I really have to think about the affordable housing part of this. We got to look at numbers because I think we're halfway there. I agree with what Max said, that just because you're going to be at 400 square feet, you're going to be considerably below the market. I mean, the apartments we talked about across the street started like $1,600, $1,800.
Not all of them. I know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about what we were talking about at the mall. That was,
I was part of that conversation. I sat through some of that, and I got it. I think there's some other people that want to give you some more food for thought.
well, I'd appreciate it.
Commissioner Lockhart.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Lockard. I'm a commissioner, but not on this committee.
Oh,
So I get that the current use is not working for them. And I do see this as something that we don't have. I feel like all of our apartments are either very old apartments or they're these brand-new luxury, much larger and more expensive. And I think of the young adults in our area, and this is kind of an option that might be attractive to them because it wouldn't be so expensive. It would be smaller, but it would be something that I think a lot of our young adults could afford and would be more attractive than some of our other options in our township. I do wish that there was another suburban project that they already had that worked. Yeah, they couldn't walk to a lot of things, but they are close to the turnpike. They're going to be close to trails. They're close to a lot of jobs in Horsham. So it does seem to me like it might be a good idea. And Commissioner Pruzzi, I'm glad you brought up about the affordable housing. And it does seem like an important thing to look at. Maybe if some of the units are set aside to, I think the way they do it is they need to be rented at a certain percentage of the person's income. So, yeah, I think that's great to look at that too, for a portion of.
We've had that conversation in this room, and I've asked the county to give us numbers on how many units we have available already, because a lot of people are saying we're underutilized. And I mean, we've been trying to be, I know you and I have had the conversation along with Commissioner Peruzzi about possibilities of if you don't want to gear your concept towards affordable housing, maybe for every 50 units, you want to make a contribution towards that. Because we have apartments that are across the street that start at $1,600, $1,800. We also have apartments across the street that start at $1,100, right there.
Do they have studios that are 1,100?
I mean.
They're probably larger too. Larger
Yeah, they are.
studios.
They're more family oriented.
would be-
The
I
school
mean, a
bus
lot of-
stops at those apartments. Is that Jamestown?
Jamestown's right across the street, yeah.
Yeah, so the school bus
Jamestown.
starts at Jamestown.
Right.
A lot of kids get on the bus there.
Right, this is definitely a different
Right, but
product, a different-
you have that concept in the area. If we had like a restaurant or something, look, how do you feel about the multi-use concept of it? Because we have so many apartments there and they're all internalized. And we have more people with vision for more apartments. And everybody's like about taking care of their own people. But if there was my idea is if there was like a restaurant or a family restaurant that was there that other apartment dwellers could come to, I think it would be successful. And
I may have that list that you're talking about. I have a list about this long that,
gotta use the microphone, Mark.
oh, I'm sorry. The list that you're talking about really the overall area. List is this long. It was done by professionals. It was done about 6 months ago. I will try and dig it out. I think it's because it shows starting 600 or 700 going all the way up. And there's a ton of apartments like that, but I'll dig it out. I'll get it to you.
All right,
I'll
I'd
send it to
appreciate that.
Paul.
You got more? You all right?
Yeah, I do think that this is a market that, or a product that we don't currently have. I think a lot of our young adults that are starting out, they don't make enough to rent at Station of Willow Grove. And also, if they're living there, they're probably not saving much to buy a house. So I do see it as a good option for young people.
I did a quick search real quick, just to answer that question about what's in the vicinity. Willow Point, one bed, one bath is the smallest, and Jamestown Village is one bed, one bath is the smallest, and the price points are steep. They're steep price points.
Is that new units?
Willow Point's new?
That's the one right in, yeah.
Yeah,
Mark,
Jamestown Village is one that's
you
directly.
gotta sit down, you gotta take the microphone with you.
Sorry, Commissioner Skull, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Nick Scott, I'm a commissioner in Ward 1. My thought is, instead of competing with the other apartment buildings, by having your own internal amenities, if you had a lot more mixed use there, there's not only Jamestown Village and the Point, I don't know if you know the industrial park on the other side of Computer Road, that's been bought, and that's gonna become apartments. So you're gonna have a large number of people living up there, and if you had some amenities on the first floor, it would attract those people. Because other than that, you have Carrabba's down at the corner, and you have Miller's Ale House up the hill. That's about it. That's my thought.
Nick, you also have two more apartment complexes at the other end of Commerce Drive.
Right.
And, excuse me, gentlemen, how, this evening? Commissioner
Charles, you have
Whiting
something
here.
to say? We can't hear you right now.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, what we have here is, we have a need for a middle income type of apartments to help with the relief of the overrated rentals we do have. And what Commissioner Lockhart and Peruzzi have said is needed. Okay, but also, we're talking about perhaps an Applebee's or something like that, a mid-range restaurant that folks can walk into, and you'll get plenty of use in your proposed space. But right now, there is no places like that. We have, like he said, a Carrabba's down the street and a Miller's, and that's it. There's more need for other restaurants like that, but more importantly, there's a need for mid-price apartment living for the community people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Charlie, you have something else to say? Okay. No, you did.
So, yeah, a restaurant would be cool, but I do think that could lead to a parking problem. I don't know if they'd have enough parking then for all the apartments and the restaurant.
Depends on the square
And
footage.
again, without, I mean, what you brought in, I think could be attractive
Okay.
as you've laid it out.
But if they live in the area, they can walk to these restaurants. Okay? People from Willow Point can walk down to that restaurant. People from some of the other places can walk to the, plus the folks who work in the medical complex around the corner, they could walk to the restaurant. The restaurant would succeed. In fact, so much so that, as you know, the proposed new Olive Garden is going to be not too far from there. So there is a possibility. And parking, people who live in that complex, they don't want to move their cars. They can just walk down and take care of it.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
So if I could just make two comments, one on the affordability issue. We actually do a lot of affordable housing as well, but it's all subsidized. And actually the cost to build those units is the same, if not more, than market rate units. It's actually kind of an absurdity. And one of the things that we always like to say is the way to get, this is supply and demand. Affordability in housing is a supply and demand problem. The greater the supply, the lower the price point can be. And this is a unique opportunity to provide a price point without a subsidy. Because it's an existing building that can be converted and can be converted relatively easily. So I would agree with you that I actually think it provides a unique product that's basically impossible to build ground up. So that's number one. The second, on the mixed use, and this is actually something near and dear to my heart. My title is actually, I'm not only a principal, but I'm the director of urban design for the firm. So I'm all about walkability. And I think this becomes a piece of the puzzle to greater walkability. We talk about places like Brewery Town. Well, the amount of households and the amount of rooftops is exponentially higher. And that's how you actually create the real mixed use, is by getting as many people. Commercial uses follow rooftops. So this is actually an area of the township that is transforming. And I wouldn't be surprised that maybe the next redevelopment actually does happen across the street too. what's the name of the apartment complex across the street?
Jamestown Village.
Jamestown Village. That maybe that's the next piece to be redeveloped, and at that point, that's kind of a hinge point, I'm putting my planner hat on, between a project like this and Willow Point. So that sort of walkability comes with that greater density, so.
I think there are opportunities for that, but I don't think Jamestown Village is one of them.
Not
but-
in the very near term, but I could see 10 years from now talking about that. Just from the age of those buildings.
Or anything on computer there.
There's a lot of opportunity in that area.
There absolutely are. It's a formerly light industrial area that's transforming. And Willow Point was that. My firm was actually responsible for that project, and going from the light industrial that it was to what it is, I think is a much higher and better use, so.
We're going to think about it. We hear you. And, after you spend as much time as Seth and Max have done, and somebody says, well, you should do this, you back up. You do, what, I spent all this time? All right, let's look at some other ideas. The affordability issue, to talk about affordability issue without showing you numbers doesn't mean anything. So we've got to look at some comparables, and we've got to look at what this will be. I do agree with the commissioner that just because they're smaller, they are going to be affordable for probably the people who are starting out. But let us get the information. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate your feedback, really. And I appreciate your attitude that when you say it's not a bad idea, but let's get the rest of it. So
Okay.
let us work on it. And thank you again.
Okay, looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to go right into old business. Federal Realty for a proposed text amendment for Phase 3 of the Willow Grove Shopping Center. Good evening, Mr. Garrity.
Oh, yeah, Mark Brennan again. Nice to see everybody.
Yeah, Mark,
Hello, thanks
nice to
for
see
getting
you
back to
again.
the dimension
Thank you for
part
being
of it.
here.
Sure. We were here, as you know, on this ordinance amendment before the CDC previously. You asked us to go back and work on some details and work on the comments from Claire Warner, from the Montgomery County Planning Commission, Kim Flanders, your own consultant, and the comments that we had received from the CDC the last time we were here. We have done that. We have produced what is now version 8 of this ordinance. And in going through it, I noticed that a number of the changes that we made are not self-evident because there were a number of things from the original ordinance that we deleted. We gave ourselves, for example, some relief from sidewalk embellishments. That's all been deleted now. So all those sidewalk embellishments are back in the ordinance. You also expressed a concern based, I'm sure, in part on the Station Village development, that we limit the amount of office that there could be on the first floor and that it try to be primarily retail. And we've addressed that and left that blank as something to talk about this evening. There's a couple of other changes, but as I said, we're up to change number 8 now on this particular ordinance, or version number 8, I should say. And I know it's a big, important project to the township, but it's also the phase that the township's always wanted to see. I mean, this has always been the big one at the end, and we're there now. We would like to see if we couldn't get your blessing to move this onward a little bit. Mark is here tonight with from Federal with a bunch of new pictures, some old pictures, and some efforts to address your concerns from the last time so that we can see if we can come up with an ordinance that it's worthy to pass along to the full board, get advertised, and let everybody talk about it at that point. But as you will see, primarily, we have kept the first floor of the development in retail. There are the restaurants and the other things that you talked about that need to be in the vicinity of these types of developments so that literally these people can just walk downstairs and have everything. They don't need to use their cars at all. They're within 70 yards of a supermarket. They've got restaurants, bars, everything, and we're gonna produce a lot of that with not only this building, but the pad site building that we just started. So without further ado, maybe I'll introduce Mark and let him go through the pictures, which are easier to understand than words.
Appreciate it, Jim, thank you. Just following up on some of the main points that I think I took away from the last hearing, and some of this is duplicative, and you've now seen this 5 or 6 times, but this is the existing center. Obviously, there are quite a bit of movements in what we call phase 1 and phase 2. We started fencing out the area around Building F, which is 18,000 square feet along Park Avenue. We'll look to relocate the drive-through to match up to the library and township building. These are some of the tenants that we've talked about sort of, at all the meetings, both with staff and obviously here at these CDC meetings. But what I really want to focus on tonight is one of the comments was about the public space and how large it is and how it's amenitized and sort of what it offers, right, on the ground plane. And so when you look at this overall site plan, right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 areas of sort of this public domain, right? And they vary from little tiny parklets with a handful of benches to larger areas, the size of 2 basketball courts, right? So King of Prussia came up as an example. And so I had my team go back and look at a few different comparisons so we can put things in perspective, right? So on the bottom left, and pardon the granularity of the image, but this is the main sort of plaza at King of Prussia, right? And so for perspective, King of Prussia is 125 acres. It is 2,600 units that are already built, with 3,000 units in total once fully entitled and built. It has 370,000 square feet of office and 400,000 square feet of retail, right? So it is literally like 7 times the size of anything we're looking to propose here. The 2 main plazas in the retail component, right, sort of anchor like the entire town center piece is 8,100 and 9,100 square feet. So when you look at what we're proposing, again, it's 6 pieces, but I'm showing you sort of the larger one, which is at the base of the mixed-use building. It's 5,500 square feet, right? For the athletes and sport lovers out there, a basketball court is 4,500 square feet, and a single tennis court is 2,100 square feet, doubles a little larger, right? So what I've done is sort of put things in perspective, right? The Veterans Memorial Park, right, which is past the train station here, is just under 6,000 square feet, right? The area in that plaza with the statue and the monument. We have a center in one of our other projects, which is about 500,000 square feet of retail, and the plaza is about 4,200 square feet. And I'll show you some images of sort of what it feels and looks like when it's fully active. So that's the bigger of all the sort of public spaces that we're proposing. But when you look at the entire project, both in phase 1 and phase 2, and then ultimately when we build a residential mixed-use project in phase 3, there are plenty of other areas that are of substantial size, right? Just on Park Avenue, we have almost 2 parklets with benches and seating areas and areas to congregate that are almost 2,000 square feet each, right? So that's the size of a tennis court, right? So if you think about how many people can congregate on a tennis court or a happy hour in a restaurant that's 2,000 square feet, there can be some really key activity moments, times for people to sit, read a paper, grab a cup of coffee, and then spill into the restaurant and the outdoor seating that's associated with it. On Building D, which is about a 10,000 square foot building we're proposing adjacent to Marshall's, there's a 1,500 square foot outdoor patio. In addition, on the other side of the building, there's a 2,000 square foot, 2,100 square foot opportunity for outdoor seating. There are bus stops along Easton, and then a little pocket park, 600 square feet. Maybe it's a dog walking area. When we look at the piece on Easton Road, right, we had that G residential and retail piece in the corner. There's 3,500 square feet adjacent to it between us and the building that we don't own. And then as you head down Easton, there's another little, streetscape parklet, right, along with a crosswalk to bring you back towards the train station, 1,100 square feet. So there are plenty of opportunities for sort of this outdoor congregation, right, as you move from one space to the next, Building F retail to the residential, and then mixed use, ultimately back to the train station. And so some of the images, right, we'll look at, King of Prussia, which is the two on the left. There's outdoor seating, there's benches, there's areas to congregate, there's tables in the springtime. This is the Barracks Road Center we have, right? So it's a water feature in the middle. There's outdoor seating that spills into restaurant seating on its flanks. And then the Willow Grove Park, right? Just a perspective, it's almost 6,000 square feet. But obviously in warm weather months in the fall, there's plenty of activity and it can be programmed, right? So part of the other thing when we look at the whole project, right, is the area in the street, right? Because it's private, we could close it off, right? We could do a street fair, we could do food trucks, we can do other things in this area because it's a privately held piece of property. We can open up the streets, we can do fairs in the spring, we can do Santa Claus things in the winter, and then we could do a, pumpkin.
Can you turn on your
festival in the
mic?
fall.
He's saying your mic's not on.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. So we talked about King of Prussia a lot last time. I think we're
Did you
good.
turn the
now.
mic on?
This one's working.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I was
Maybe
moving
you were too far away from
Yeah,
it.
I was getting excited. I'm sorry. I'm very anxious and excited about what we can bring here. Right? And I heard the previous group and
No, you were jumping right into that picture.
yeah. So, that's one of the things that we heard last time. And I'll move on to the presentation because I know I'm trying to make do for everyone's time. But the other thing is we talked about the section drawing, right, and the height of the building and ultimately what we're trying to produce here. And when we looked at the code, and as Jim mentioned, we're on the 8th draft, the zoning text amendment, the text is pretty clear, right? It's a 6-story building is sort of the limit in this TOD, TC district. And we're maintaining that. But when we look at what 6 stories really is, we believe that to create a unit that is both leasable, pleasurable for the people that live inside of it, and has a longevity that could last 50 or 75 years, you need a little extra ceiling height. Right? You don't want to create a unit just to jam in 6 stories and 65 feet. What we're proposing here is the same 6 stories, but to go from a almost 11-foot slab to slab, right? So we're not asking for more units, we're not asking for more density, and we're not asking for additional floor. All we're asking for is a little additional height per unit to provide a leasable, marketable, experience inside the unit. And I think that sort of gets lost when we talk about stories versus height. So in our other projects, what we've seen is when you do go from 10 feet, 8 inches, or 11 feet, sensibly, into anything lower, you have more vacancy. And you don't want to diminish the overall, appearance of the building because there's vacancy and because there's languishing units. Ultimately, we want to build a product that will be successful both for the developer, the community, and the township. So we talked about the section drawing last time. Unfortunately, we didn't have it. Here's what we're showing, right? So on the first floor along Park, it's 14 feet, which is the amenity space in the lobby. And then floors 2 through 6 are about just under 11 feet each. And then the ultimate height of the building is about 69 feet to the roof. And then there'll be some parapet and some screening above that, which will get you into, the 73, 74, 75 foot range, depending on what we do during our land development with the township. So, and then as you head down off of Park and you head into the middle of the project, we're keeping the 6 stories, we're not adding any more floors. But on the retail side, the same thing goes, right? We want to create a retail experience that doesn't have short ceilings, right? That we're not trying to jam another floor of residential in there. We want a 20-foot, 20-foot height space, right? Which for restaurants and F&B, it's really the minimum, right? So it's open, it's just cavernous, there's a real feel to it inside. So that's something that, we didn't hit on the last go around. Everything else on the plan is sort of the same. We did make some changes to the text amendment. We talked significantly about buffering retail H here, right? And we spent a lot of time both with Kim and the county to walk through what that would look like. And I think we addressed it in the zoning text. And then on the retail office split that Jim indicated, I think we're all on the same page. Right? We want retail on the ground floor. But retail is a changing world, and I don't know what's going to be in 50 years. So I think our proposal is to cap the office at no more than 30%. So we're happy to say, hey, listen, we're not going to make the first floor all office. But in the event that there is a medical office or some non-retail use, I don't want to be limited to have a vacancy versus having another, tenant that could produce activity in the center, so.
That's
Okay,
30% of 25%?
There is right now, we're showing about 20,000 square feet between what we call G and then the building and the little space on Easton.
Right.
So 30% of the 20,000. Because there is no retail along Park. But yes, it's 30% of the 25.
Right, okay, yeah, because the amendment is saying that the first floor, at least 25% office or retail uses of the entire first floor.
Correct.
So then you're saying of that 25%, 30% can
Correct.
go.
So right now,
to
we're showing
medical office.
20,000 feet of commercial, non-residential in the mixed-use building. And I'm saying we could cap that. We will not exceed the 30% for the office portion of that.
Let's talk about square footage then. If you're
Great.
talking about, what'd you say, 20,000 square foot or?
Yeah, the retail G, right, which is sort of, we're focused on the mixed-use building, right, with retail on grade and residential above.
And I'm sorry, Mark, just a timeout to
Yep.
clarify. Is that G that you're talking about also include the little nub that's on Easton
Yeah.
Road?
It does. So
Okay.
that,
Is
that is plus or minus, right, 20,000 feet.
Okay.
Retail H here is plus or minus 5,000 feet. And then D is just around 10,000 feet. So D and H are sort of excluded from this, right? Because I think they're going to be just traditional retail.
Right.
In the existing zoning. And then G, we will limit it to, if in the worst case scenario, we can't lease retail there. 30% would be the maximum for office.
So, what's that number?
It's like 7,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
A little less,
right.
Yeah. I mean, 18 is 6, so you can,
6,500 or something.
yeah, 66 and change.
Yeah.
I don't think it's actually 20. I think it's like 19.9 or something, so.
Okay.
okay, on your heights, so if we're saying 68 street level,
Correct.
and let's say you had 7 or whatever, so we're 75, let's say.
Yeah,
So where you're asking for 85 would be from the interior
correct. So.
of the building towards the middle of the shopping center.
Correct. So what we don't want to do is sort of get into this catch-22 where when you measure it from Park, we're at 68, 8, 69, that's the top of the roof membrane, and then we build the parapet and some screening so we don't see RTUs, et cetera. But as the building drops down into the interior portion, we do lose about 10 feet.
Yep.
Right, which makes up that additional retail height. But as I indicated before, does not add any more interstitial residential unit, right? I'm not trying to jam in seven stories into a 6-story building. I think it's crucial that we keep the 6 stories, right? When we get to, let's say 11 feet slab to slab, it's 10.8 here, but just for, argument's sake, it's 11 feet, right? Which provides a unit that I think, in our experience, right, for the 3,000 or 4,000 units that we own, provides the best long-term viability and leasability, and ultimately will provide the best, vacancy.
Okay, so Paul, that's the question for you. We usually take the median is what our height is.
Well,
So here they're just being very specific,
Correct.
and you're okay, are you okay?
town center ordinance, it's from grade, so.
Okay.
It's not medium grade, it's from the grade.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
This image is also slightly misleading
I
too.
think you
What was that?
put your finger right on it. It is 85 at that one corner.
That one corner.
Right.
But it's only if it's down to 72 on Park. It's written so that it can only be 85 if it's 72 on Park.
Yeah. Park Avenue is our interest point.
Park Avenue.
Well, because of the grade, it
It'll be,
turns out.
the building height, right, again, we can talk about how we define the building versus zoning code. But the top of the roof in our projection now is just under 69 feet. And then there will be some sort of cornice or parapet, right, to frame the building out. And that, 3-4 feet, right, and that gets you to, just call it 72 here, plus 10 is 82. And I need some wiggle room in case we decide to, add a little additional cornice or some sort of architectural element, I don't have to come back here to add 6 inches to the building. So that's how we got to 85.
Yeah, that's where and I appreciate the site section. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Garrity, also about, well, whatever you said. I appreciate it when you said it. I just can't remember what.
So good.
What this is slightly misleading though, Mark, is what you keep talking about, right? Because you're looking at 69 feet across from the township building.
Correct.
But then you keep talking about, we might throw a couple more feet on top for a parapet, blah, blah, blah. I can see screening elements going up to 6 feet. So you're capping it at 72 max, right?
I think we're capping
On
at
Park Avenue.
75.
75 max on
Correct.
Park Avenue. Is that, okay, because that's a very misleading image at that point. I mean, you're basically 6 feet tall.
Well, I think the building department identifies the height of the building as the roof line. So I think we may be conflating, and again, I'd have to look at
It's
Paul.
72.
It's 72.
72, and that's from the sidewalk.
Okay.
The existing, which exists.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And Paul, that's measured to the top of the roof membrane, that's not including parapets and.
Right.
Right, right, I think the current ordinance does not include,
You don't want to see
Parapets.
HVAC units.
I totally understand that. I also
No.
don't want to see a towering monstrosity
you're not
across the
gonna see
township
'em.
building. So I'm trying to figure out, how do we look at this? What am I actually getting? And every time we have these conversations, I get a little bit of the picture. I don't get the full picture. So.
I mean, the building's not designed yet, so I'm not trying, like,
Understood.
what
But
I,
if you know it's gonna go up to 72, then you should put a 72 inch.
and I think that's what we
72
put in
tall-
the ordinance.
But you should have put a 72-foot tall building on the site section if you knew that was the height that you were gonna go for,
that's-
right?
that's-
This is a 68-8.
Correct, which is clearly identified as the top of the roof line. Right,
Understood.
so like, again, from that point on, yes, there will be 3 feet, 3 inches of
Understood.
some cornice element to get us to 72, which is how we draft the zoning text.
So that you
Mark, my
can't
point,
see the HVAC.
I get that, I totally understand it. My point is, and I'm sorry for the attitude.
No.
Every time you guys come in, you show us something, and then you say, but I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z more. So if you are telling me that you're gonna cap that building at 72 feet on Park Avenue, why didn't you just show me a building that's 72 feet on Park Avenue?
Or give me a visual.
Because now, like, I can't,
So-
people can't understand the scale of how big this is if you're gonna subtract 4 to 5 feet every time you show me a picture.
This is the design building as we currently sit, right? And so this shows 72 feet,
Okay.
okay? But the roof line, which is the building code, is the top of the building, I was being fair about how the building code is
We agree with
laid
that.
out.
I-
It's
I'm not
60.
arguing that.
But this rendering here, right, this elevation, all of them in fact, show it as 72-foot height.
So this rendering tells me nothing. Can you go to the rendering that shows the township building on Park Avenue? That one. Okay. So the perspective of that looks as though the building across the street is the same height as our township tower. And all I'm saying is, I don't care, like 72 feet, and we don't have to see HVAC systems, great. I just want the full picture when I'm looking at your renderings and your sections, right? Like, it wouldn't have hurt to draw a parapet 4 feet on that side and still have your elevation markers showing me 68. I just want to know how this compares to the site. That's all I'm asking. Like, because what I don't want to do is for us to talk about this stuff and then there's some level of confusion when we all sit at the whole board to talk about these again. And we're bringing up other questions that were glossed over for sales purposes at these meetings. Like, I just want everybody to be super honest and straightforward with what
And
we're
we
looking
are,
at.
and so,
Isn't your question really whether this rendering shows the parapet
Yeah.
or not?
Does it?
I think
Well-
I think it does.
I don't think it does, to be
No.
honest, because if
So-
you look at the
Look
elevation.
how much space there is above the windows
yeah,
on the top
this
floor.
shows it.
Yeah, I think it's already
This
shown.
building shows, this picture here, and all the pictures, right? So like, this is the scale at grade, right, which we've already talked about. And so, this shows
It's already there.
the final product that matches what we're showing in the zoning text.
So the reason why I politely disagree is if you look at the corner there where you have the arched windows, and the top of that arch sits right, very close to the top of the roof line.
Yep.
And I look at the site section that you drew, that's about the same proportion.
Okay.
And so I don't know. Yeah,
I understand. I understand.
I have a hard time
And I
understanding
think,
what's
I
what.
think part of it is, yes, from standing on the street level, I don't think there's a human out here that could tell me if it's 70 or 72, and I do hear what you're saying. But what I'm saying is when my engineers and architects designed this building, the top of that roof line is 72 feet.
Understood. Yeah, I think I'm arguing the dimension here as a matter of principle, in that I just want to see what you're proposing. And that's not what you're proposing. That is 5 feet shorter than what you're proposing.
It's not. I mean, I don't know what else to say,
We'll have-
Commissioner. I mean, we're showing a 6-story building, right? The current code is 65 feet.
Yeah.
And we're asking to go to 72 feet. And the difference is that we want to create floor heights in the units that are going to be leasable and marketable for 50 years.
Makes
And
perfect
the
sense.
building here, according to my designers and our design team, is 72 feet.
Okay.
And at this section, right, where we lose the 10 feet, it's the same amount of stories, the same roof line, and we get the extra 10 feet on the retail portion of it. And obviously, you see the garage that's
It's the back of the.
planned right,
Yeah.
facing the
East
east.
and west side. All right, well, I made my point, and we'll continue to disagree on that, but that's fine.
Okay.
I'm not arguing the points of, I think your floor heights make sense. That's a marketable thing, right? Nobody wants to live in
Get
a
you final
cramped little,
answer on that.
yeah.
No question.
But what I will say, and I don't want to belabor this much, we're going to live to 72 feet.
Right.
All right, and whether this, in your estimation, is 69 and change or 72, for the imaging, we will confirm and we will update it, but what we're asking for is 72 feet
Right.
along Park.
Yeah, that, again,
stories.
fine. I have no concerns with what you're asking for.
Okay.
And I appreciate the mapping out of the amenity spaces too. I think that's
Yeah,
helpful
I think
to
that got
see.
lost, right? We talked about King of Prussia and,
Yeah,
you know, it's,
and we're not getting King of Prussia.
and we're not,
Everybody understands
I
that,
mean,
but,
we're talking about density, but
Yeah.
it won't be nearly the same.
right, okay.
We're gonna move on to the next thing.
Those are the two main things that we were,
Drive-through. You asked for a drive-through. We've said from day one, 7 years ago, no drive-through.
okay?
You still have it in here. And you
Correct.
showed it on every.
And so
single
after the
one.
last hearing, I think we took back the comments both from the CDC, and then we went, met with the county and Kim, and we put additional buffering, right, to protect the drive-through and create the visibility issues that there's some are concerned about in terms of the drive-through lane. But we still think it's a viable option for the site, and I think if we add the required buffering and landscaping along Easton, that it still works, so.
And that's what we said we didn't want the last time. We
Well,
said
look.
the interior driveway.
Yeah, I
which
know.
Anthony came up with, was on the other side of the building, not the street side. Anybody?
And there are ways to do that.
Okay, and that's what we're saying, okay? But every single plan for 7 years shows a drive-through.
Correct.
On the outside, and that's where we're not
Correct.
interested. Because if we go back
So
to
if
the
we-
very
let me-
beginning.
let me
I'm
ask
going back
you-
to John,
Yep, all right.
that long ago. The very first print we put upstairs, I circled the whole entire street view in red.
Okay.
And said, this is what we don't want to see. We want to see the fronts of stores. There is no fronts of a store in this whole project except for the apartments.
So if we were to put the drive-through inboard of the site, and we were to put the building closer to Easton, would that alleviate some of your concerns?
That would help.
Okay.
That would help a lot. Right now, we identify, if you go back to,
Because I do have an image that I would like to share with you, that of a project we just finished, actually, not too far from here, in Marple Township. We spent $30 million renovating a center with a mainline health facility and a large-scale facade upgrade, and we added a building, a 2000.
the Lawrence Park.
Yes. And so if you look at the Lawrence Park, and I brought it because I was anticipating we were going to have this discussion. So this is the building we just finished, right? And so put the uses aside for a second, but it's a drive-through building for a bank. The road that you're seeing in the front in both images is Sproul Road. We put the building right up against it, right? And if this was a restaurant, you could see an outdoor patio here, and then we put the drive-through inboard of the site, right? And I think for most people, right, I mean, the signage is not up yet, but This is an attractive looking element, right, along a pretty busy thoroughfare, Sproul Road. And if we were to amenitize this with outdoor seating, that in itself is screened, right? So as a customer, right, you're not hearing or seeing the traffic potentially. But we did put the drive-through inboard of the site. And so you come around, this is the exit lane. It's not quite finished yet. They'll be open, early next year. But this is a similar construct of what we have here, right? Where we have Easton Road, which is a busy thoroughfare. Right, we want to add retail to it. I mean, of course, the building could be a little closer perhaps, and the street entrances, could also be along the sidewalk. But we did do a drive-through in a similar suburban setting, right? Obviously, no residential here, but it does work and it is possible.
Can you go back to the slide where you were showing us the open space?
Of course.
All right, hold on. That one, that's good. So that's the point we're making, where like you have that open space in the bottom right-hand corner next to H.
Correct.
And how do you get there? By feet.
Correct.
You got to, we talked about that at our last meeting, about this vehicular rodeo that you have to navigate through to get to that useful open space.
So wait, you put an interesting pause in your statement, and I just want to clarify that, because Mark's response, I don't think was what you're aiming for. How do you get there by feet? It should have been one complete sentence, not how do you get there by feet. No, it was how do you get there by feet? That's a
Either
very
way, you
different
use the
statement. Like, how do you get there? How do you walk to this spot if you've got cross traffic across the way, right? Like, that's what you're
That's it.
Okay.
I think this element in particular, right, you're going to get a lot of people that do use a crosswalk on Easton or coming down Easton. But I do understand your concern. But if we were to put the drive-through inboard, right, this building would then be tucked up against this little area. The alternative is, I appreciate Kip's comments for the past 5 years with John and the balance of my team.
7 years.
I mean,
And believe me, I like the project.
Yeah.
I'm just being, now it's nitpicky when we talk, and we've gotten burned on this before, as far as conditions and stuff like that. I can't just say yes to a condition as a drive-through, because once we put it in there, it's not stated where it's going.
Can I put an olive branch out then?
That's
As-
gonna be
as
something
we
for
sort of
John.
get to this?
All right.
Even though I do believe the type of user we're talking to for this drive-through would be a benefit to this community, I'm willing to forego the drive-through. If this, hold on. There's a but. I heard but. We were talking about, if
always a
that
but.
statements.
Yeah.
This building could get a little larger,
It can get what?
a little bit larger. Right, we'll obviously still meet the parking. We'll get back some of the space from the drive-through. We'll push the building closer to Easton, and we will forego the drive-through in its entirety, so long as I can get a little more GLA out of this building.
And I don't mind that. The drive-through, what I'm looking for,
I liked it.
what I'm looking.
And I'll tell you the tenant afterwards, and then we'll see how you feel.
Yeah, and it's been discussed, every single person here for years, the Chinese wall, which you guys never heard of until you came here.
Yeah, no.
I'm about looking at it from the street
Correct.
when I drive through Willow Grove. That, and as I said, whether you make it bigger, the drive-through on the other
And so
side.
there was this dichotomy, right? Because on one hand, we were like, hey, the drive-through functions well. I think the tenancy mix would benefit this community. On the second, we were like, hey, we're going to landscape the hell out of this thing, right? So you can't see it, particularly if it's outboard of the building and it's closer to Easton. If we do move it inboard, right, we could create some of that effects I show you in Lawrence Park. The building's a little bit larger, but I'm happy to give up the drive-through if I can get that building to be a little bit larger, right, and we can create plaza areas and courtyards similar to what we're doing in Building F. I'm not saying F for 18,000 feet, obviously, but outdoor space, and we'll make this building a little bit larger, and we will push it closer to Easton.
So two questions. What does it mean to make it larger? What is the percentage that we're looking for? And the second question is, contingent on how large you're looking for, are you willing to redo stormwater discussions and parking discussions and everything else that comes with additional square footage and ground coverage.
I think we'll have to meet all of those requirements, right? I mean, I think that's what land development is for. I think we're just focusing on the zoning text tonight.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of steps between here and there, obviously. But yeah, I don't think I'm asking for any additional parking variances at this point.
Okay. How big is the building? What are you looking for?
It'll be like
size-wise?
7,500 square feet. I mean,
How
it's
big
not
is it
gonna-
now?
I think this was showing us 5,000.
It's 5. Oh, so you're looking for an additional 2,500 square feet.
Plus or minus, right? I have to go back and rework the plan a
They
little bit. But again, the parking field that will support it, right? Still need, again, we're retail centric, right? Our DNA is retail, right? So it still has to be supported by, parking that functions properly, right? So there is parking, both surface and a portion of the garage that will facilitate this retail environment here, right? The 20,000, the retail H and retail D, less retail D, primarily retail H, right? In the first floor of the parking, right? So there is an on-grade parking component in the garage, right? That'll be separate from the residential piece, which is gonna be entered into the building off Park, right? So if you remember from the earlier conversations, there's a residential parking garage entrance on Park, and there's a retail commercial service entrance, for lack of a better term, off the drive aisle behind retail H.
Okay, and especially if you're we're replacing the drive-through with
retail.
building.
Correct.
I don't have a problem with that.
I'm all about it.
That's good.
So what does that do to our text amendment then? Where are we striking?
I think we're getting rid of all references to a drive-through.
Yeah, it just says no.
That's
drive-through, so
wonderful.
just-
You got it on the record. Is Mike working here? It only took you 7 years. We
You
tried.
should have listened the first time.
John's not here
We're
tonight.
excited about this. We're not trying to be negative.
Oh, he's
I appreciate it.
baiting us.
I keep going, did you have a, with this?
I do about this. So, I'm excited about the project too. But, back to giving up the drive-through. The drive-through is a prohibited use. That's not something that's being given up here. And if we make that building bigger, then there's less open space. I mean, that's the corner of Kip I remember you talking about.
Okay, what he's gonna do is though, where that drive lane is that's white, that's gonna be building.
Well, it's
That's
gonna
all.
push it closer.
So on this plan, we're not gonna lose any of the green area that you're
It would
looking at.
instead be that-
It's just gonna be
that
where the drive lane comes through.
I hear you.
That's what the difference is, but we're gonna be looking at the front of a restaurant.
Right.
It's
Might-
not that
might-
big.
Might even be sitting outside at that restaurant.
Well, there's not a whole lot of room to sit outside at the restaurant.
No, where all that driveway is, goes away.
Right, and we're putting
The
building there.
building might
goes
come in.
closer.
Oh, it might go,
We're putting building there, though, not open space.
Not all
so
that's-
you could sit outside at the restaurant.
Wh-
Can I share something with you? I think I could alleviate your concern, and I think I could potentially alleviate everyone's concern here.
You knew we were going there.
Let
They
me
were ready.
disconnect for 1 second and try to find a sketch that our team put together.
I think John has an earbud to him saying, just get the damn thing done. No.
I think John's on vacation
No,
somewhere.
they heard us.
I guess, can you answer a question while you're searching, Mark? or should I-
I'm done searching, but yes, I can answer your question. Go ahead.
That was solely a drive aisle, correct? For the drive-through. It was not a service loop also.
No.
So
Yeah,
it-
we don't have to worry about that anymore, though. 'cause
There
I
you
think
go.
I have your
He's
solution.
got
So
it.
this building, Retail H, is 5,600 square feet, right? I'm sorry, the previous, let me just get the exact square foot. The previous building was 3,500, I apologize, I said.
Oh,
5,000.
okay.
I meant so this building is 5,600, right? There is now a walking path from Easton, on the mixed-use side of the project, right, into a sort of plaza area or outdoor seating area. There's outdoor seating along Easton. Again, this program could change depending on the exact shape of the building, right? We could open up, I don't have a pointer, but, you know, I talked earlier about closing the street perhaps, right, for some sort of public event, right? So what we're talking about is a pretty large portion of additional outdoor space, including this plaza, you know, as we look at, you know, providing that public space amenity that I started with. So this building is 5,600 square feet versus the 3,500. It has some additional outdoor space, right? It does create the similar effect to what I showed at Lawrence Park, right? A building that has some street presence, right? Maybe there's a patio on the other side. And the patio may be inboard, right? We're still getting through planning. But I think to Kip's comment from the last 7 years, this does not include a drive-through.
I like this. As long as it's, like you said, the glasses, everything's facing the street also.
Yeah.
Also. They're a three-sided building or four-sided building.
Well, we still have to provide service here, yeah, so that nothing is totally, you know, ironed out. But yes, what we refer to as four-side architecture, right? So the building doesn't have a split-face block rear that has got leaders coming down and looks, you know, like it's unfinished. This building will have four-side architecture similar to Lawrence Park, right, in its overall scope, right? It's got wood and glass and, you know, stone features on all four sides, and it provides, I believe, everything that, you know, you're sort of looking for as we get, you know, into the project from Easton and York.
It's funny how I had that ready.
Yeah, right?
Also,
It's a good move.
oh yeah.
So, good.
I think it's good. And what I'm looking at is you take York Road and Easton Road right there in the corner. It's 55,000 cars a day that we're looking at your shopping center, the main thing. And that's why I think that should look really good from the street right there. Because that's gonna be your reputation as people just drive by until they get to know the whole center. Because then from there, do you have another issue on this one before I go?
I was just gonna say, basically what you're saying, but the activity on that corner, I mean, I can see your little umbrellas in the
And again,
the
that
patio plan?
is.
Fine, concept, got it.
Yes. It may be.
However,
Switch.
the activation of that corner with people
Correct.
advertises the site as a space where people can activate the outdoor spaces, right? It should not be, one of the arguing points that we've had about site F up at the top is, you know, you've got some undulation in the facade, you got some seating spots, but there's nothing there. If people sit there, it just happens to be that they needed a seat and they decided to sit there. This should be a spot where it's actually usable space that's tied to the tenant in a way that advertises the site.
Correct.
Now, what's the tenant?
I can't tell you now.
Why not?
No, we were talking to a national high-end burger place that I'm sure everyone's familiar with.
What we thought was probably what it was, all right.
Can't give any more details than that, but there's not that many out there, so.
Yeah.
And they do non-drive-through concepts, so.
Sure.
We haven't, you know.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Back in the first sketches, you were talking about some high-end stainless steel panels in Willow Grove on the side of the Amazon Fresh building.
I wasn't here for that, I was 7 years ago.
Okay. No, it was maybe 4 years ago. But, you know, we really improved the idea to the public. Public's really, really angry about Amazon. And, you know, Jeff
So
Bezos.
is the land.
Right. I understand that, but if you could get that done, I think it would add a lot to it.
We've done everything we're obligated to do, and the tenant is planning on opening, so they did release a statement a few weeks back that they won't be opening any more stores next year, but this store is still slated to open at some point.
Okay.
They're
That's
just
interesting.
delayed based on a technology upgrade, actually. So you've been to the one in
Warrington.
Lawrence Park, the newest one they've opened, sort of down the pit there and then on the hill, you know? It's a pretty incredible concept. I was skeptical as a retail guy. But yeah, you just walk in, pick up a bag of sugar and walk out. It's sort of fascinating. So.
Okay. I just want my willow grove,
Yeah,
my tree.
The laser panels will be up before,
Yeah, so I do.
before we issue a CO, guarantee.
The landscaping and the sidewalk improvements are still ongoing. We just finalized our HOP, both of the county and the state, to finalize those upgrades. So what you see back there is not done yet, nor is the loading area fully screened off and whatnot, but it's certainly coming. Okay, so.
And that will be done either way, whether
Oh, yeah,
it's
this
Amazon or not. That's
Yeah.
just,
Yes.
we haven't gotten,
Correct. In
That
fact, I
part,
think
yeah.
we're about to file our revised HOP for the comment we spoke about last hearing with the ADA ramp and whatnot. So Matt Hammond is finalizing that, and we should start that construction as soon as the weather breaks.
yeah, the last piece that I'm looking at is, again, we're very excited about this, but
That makes two of us.
side of that parking garage,
Okay.
I knew we'd have something with it.
I don't have anything
Nothing?
additional for that. I think part of it, right, and we've had this discussion, we don't own the adjacent building. We believe it should be incorporated somehow, some way into this project. It would change the dynamics of the building if we could do,
Even without it, let's say we can never get that little piece on the corner.
yeah,
We're still looking at
Big piece.
a huge piece there.
correct. So, I mean, listen, we've done plenty of other garages that have a similar element, right? And for us, it's also the front door. So when we
Yeah.
look at it, right, whether it's a green living wall or, metal panels or, did I miss it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, right there.
There will be some architectural element which will create the illusion that it is not simply a garage. I don't know what it'll be yet, right, because we're just working on the zoning text. But that is certainly going to be part of the next process as we hopefully move.
Do you have a concept if that corner piece is included?
I do have a concept. It's funny, I don't have it with me. I'm not just playing.
Come on, man, all these bag of tricks you have.
Yeah.
Pull the rabbit out of your hat.
Disconnect the thing again. We've thought about it, because at one point we did seek to purchase that property. Unfortunately, we were not successful. But essentially what it would be, if the economics worked out, would be a line of residential, which would ostensibly screen the garage for the first portion down Easton. Not in this little image, right, because it gets too narrow. But along that property line, there would be another sort of tray of residential, which would screen the garage. If you could envision that.
Fronting on a park.
Fronting on a park.
Easton.
Both a park.
It'd be most of that.
Yeah, so the
Oh, yeah, okay,
park
yeah, that
piece
parking lot comes
would
all the way
remain,
over, that's
right,
right.
because the
yeah.
building gets too narrow. But in the upper portion of it, if you were to
Yeah.
take that parking lot and sort of draw a line right down, until Easton gets too narrow, there would be another 45 or 60 feet, of residential that would go up, adjacent to it.
Could you go back to the picture where that parking garage was with the ivy on it?
But again, we don't own that piece, and we haven't made any, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right there.
Yep.
That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
So that
So
part you
the
see,
the Lawton's corner,
that would remain,
that would be,
and if you were to.
that's right on the corner as we're pulling in,
That's the
coming southbound.
one-way entrance.
Correct. The former drive-through was to your left.
Again, I'm gonna say,
Just
60,000 people there driving down that street. That is the plainest part of the building that everybody is gonna see on that picture of that entire building. That is just a plain flat wall with
Yeah.
windows on it. When you look 2 things down where you're not gonna see it, yeah, that's your extrusion coming out with, it just looks so much better.
I mean, the upper floor has a similar roof line, as Park does, right? And if you look at, this, right, I mean, the nighttime view provides a little bit more of a contrast, but it is a similar architectural element along this entire run, as you head back towards Easton. And again, if we need to make minor changes about, materials and whatnot, I mean, there's still, I think, time to do it as we get through this process.
I'm just pointing out, so you see
no,
what we see.
yeah,
I'm looking at
I
that
think
as, that's a
listen, there are
poor
certain,
looking
there
corner.
are certainly elements here, right, lighting elements and window out treatments that could enhance this. But it is the same architecture along this side of the project, which does differ from what we provided along Park, mainly because of the townhouse duplex unit mix that we've done up there with the outdoor, like, balconies and seating and stuff.
It's just a picture when I look at it, that's the most boring part. Switch out with the middle or something, when you're looking down that street.
Got it. No, I appreciate that. And there's still work to be done. I mean,
I think the setback's misleading from Easton Road to where the Lawrence Corner is, as when I look at the retail
So that
picture.
doesn't look bland?
No, I'm saying that I'm looking at that and it
Yes, there's a
projects.
setback to the garage.
Yeah, and no, but from where Lawrence Corner is to the curb line on Easton Road.
Yeah, it's,
yeah, I can go back to
it's
the
a sidewalk
plan
width,
again.
it's
Hold
a
on.
6-foot sidewalk width.
I'm not saying the side, I'm saying the
Yeah, I
building.
know.
It's pretty close,
Yeah,
right?
it's
I mean,
real close.
So we're gonna, so part of it, right, is the DOT, we're gonna have a pull-in lane essentially from Easton, right? Where the shoulder's gonna kind of get closer to our property. Again, that's all gotta get worked out with PennDOT.
Yeah, so that picture you showed us,
It is the same as this plan. But,
so, okay, so that's the angle from the photography.
correct, the
that's-
angle is essentially coming
Yeah.
across the street, and you're almost looking at it
Yeah.
on a
And-
catty corner perspective.
But don't let that mislead you. I mean, the distance from the corner
It's right up against the sidewalk.
to that curb is 8 feet. It's
8 to
sidewalk.
10 feet
Yeah,
max,
it's a
yeah.
sidewalk.
That was,
In the picture I was looking at, what people like recreating there looked like about 15 feet.
yeah.
All right, what are we doing about this, the text amendment? Where are we at now as far as what we need to get accomplished?
I'll tell you what, I think we are. I think, but for the portion that relates to the drive-through, assuming everyone agrees to the height and the percentages of office versus retail and sort of a worst-case scenario, I believe we're done, but we're gonna have to revise it to take out the buffering language and the drive-through language, which I'm not giving away because I know it's not part of the TOD. I'm not asking for it anymore either, so
Okay.
my suggestion is if we can revise the draft document and then proceed to the.
So we need to
full
have some more
board.
conversation about the height, because I know there's some more conversation to have.
Yeah, the height is our most critical piece.
I got that.
Yeah, okay.
Let's hear.
So, yeah, I didn't get to make a comment about the height yet. So what I think about is I look at Station at Willow Grove, and that's 4 stories, and I just can't imagine 6 stories on Park Avenue across from our township building. It just doesn't seem appropriate, and it doesn't seem a fit there. We are adding Park Avenue now to allow this, and I get that, but, I mean, it just doesn't seem appropriate to me. And then also, I did have a question, so I get that we're adding this text amendment incorporates Park Avenue. Why are we saying Moreland also?
It's in your ordinance.
It's all part of the,
I thought it-
the whole district.
The reason we added Park was to.
Park wasn't in the ordinance.
Park was not in the ordinance.
Yeah, but some of these sections, if you compare them to the current ordinance, I think it just has York, Davisville, and Easton.
That's correct.
And in certain places, you've added Park and Moreland. So I'm not sure why we're adding Park and Moreland anywhere. I have to look at it again,
I don't
the
think
current one.
anything that references moorland has anything to do with height. It only has to do with requirements for a mixed-use building like this that has to be visible from so many streets.
Yeah, I hear you, but there's no reason to add Moreland at all. If it's not already there in our ordinance, I don't know why we're adding Moreland.
Yeah, we've been through it so many times.
I got
but
you. Okay.
I
Thank
think it
you.
was
Hold on,
necessary
Cheryl.
to
Stay there,
make this
please.
property unique.
So you realize that the 6 stories is permissible in the district?
Yep.
Right.
With the bonuses?
Well, right, if they
But not at that
perfectly
height.
comply with the bonus. I don't know if they comply with the bonus
We haven't.
currently. And I get,
And we initially gave ourselves some breaks from the bonus conditions.
Yes, you
Right.
did.
Well, when you say when you say 6-story, it's 65 feet for the
Right.
bonus privilege.
And
Yeah.
on Park, we're asking for 72.
I hear you.
But not
And
an additional
change.
floor or not an additional density.
Right.
or
I mean,
more than
I'm just saying, when I look at Station Willow Grove, and I see that that's 4 stories, it just doesn't seem to fit. To be
I'm with you
6
100%,
stories.
and the unfortunate reality is it's in the zoning.
I think
It's in the zoning, that's what stinks.
I think that's the
You
problem.
do need all the bonus? Okay, but
The only thing they-
65 feet is in the zone.
Right.
not-
And the problem is the ordinance said 6 stories, 65 feet. But most people who want to build nice apartments want higher ceilings, and especially if you're going to have a first floor retail, you're going to be way more than 65 feet, and that's kind of where we are.
And I think that's where the extra height's coming from.
Right.
A good portion of it.
Yeah, and if you go back to the section drawing, even though Anthony doesn't love it.
The original, the only thing that's missing, I think, out of the original intent and the ordinance, and Paul can correct me on this, the top 2 floors or whatever, they were supposed to be offset and set back from the original, when they.
Yeah, that got
That's what,
changed.
one of the
That got changed.
main things.
Right,
So
we did
other
talk
than
about
that, they have added
Articulation.
the undulations along the
materials,
building, the step backs and all that
The
stuff.
architectural elements that provide,
they've-
break down the scale, the trees along Park, all of that. Patios, right, all of those elements, those pedestrian level elements.
Streetscaping.
I hate to use the word urban, right, but it's not suburban, that's, relating to the previous applicant. All of those do break down the building, right, so even if you go back to the plan, right, you see the view from Park, right, which is, put the power lines away for a second, but, when you're here, right, I understand the 65 feet where we are asking for relief. But I'm not sure anyone could tell 65 or 72 if it's 6 stories, you see 6 windows, you multiply by 10, and that's what everyone assumes. But inside the building, you had the really ample ceiling heights, which, as I said earlier, is gonna make this a product that will be leasable, or at least the best chance to lease, in perpetuity, so.
Right. And at the request of Paul and at the request of Claire
This is
from the
what you'll
Montgomery
be-
County
this
Planning
is-
Commission,
yeah.
we put all that stuff back in.
This is what you'll be seeing if you're walking along Park, on the south
Well,
side.
now that lends itself to the idea that there's retail on Park Avenue.
Correct, so.
And you guys, you just threw that out.
Yeah, there is no retail, but there is activity, right? So we did create these areas outside the townhouse element, to provide, front entrances so people walk off their apartments, right, onto the street. So it's not a very long run of zero activity. In spring and summer and fall days, winter, if, people are so inclined, can sit outside and there will be activity across from this building.
That's great, we like that, and that was the concept we were looking for when we were talking about building F
Correct.
across the other side of the driveway.
Building F's a little tricky, and I don't wanna go, because of the elevation change.
We were there, we had that conversation, and,
We're doing our best to mitigate that by bringing that patio to
okay,
the corner. So.
all right. Commissioner Skull?
Yeah,
Anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. So where do we go from here, then?
I would like to make a suggestion that, based upon the fact that I think we've only heard about 1 or 2 sections that are in version 8 that you have tonight, that I eliminate the drive-through, that I do whatever it takes to address the commissioner's concern about Moreland Avenue if I can. I have no idea why it ended up in there, but I'll check and see why it's in there. I usually don't do things without a reason,
So-
but maybe I did.
So, big picture.
And send it back to you and ask that it be advertised for a hearing.
So I'm glad the commissioner mentioned that too, because, you have already identified that, hey, we're not sure what's going on with the jewelry store in the corner. To her comments about, oh, wow,
So I think.
that could
so
suddenly
I-
be 6 stories,
But I
you know?
think part of, and again, I think we've been at this so long, and I do apologize, but I will check my notes. I think part of it is that our building, our property, for a portion that's less than 850 feet, does not front Easton. Right, so so we included Moreland, I believe, to capture the overall impression of the TOD. But we
Right.
will double check. It
Yeah.
wasn't a sleight of hand to add density on the other side, because.
Get the frontage.
Yeah,
Right,
it was
that's
to
right,
get the
'cause-
frontage.
Because I think the other one,
Required.
Station Village references Davisville,
Yeah.
which obviously is nowhere.
Yeah, listen, I think we all learned a couple lessons from that. I understand the addition of Park Avenue, that wasn't there
Yeah.
originally.
But I think we need to keep that condition of 2 or 3 more public streets visible, but again,
Well, we'll check.
we will wordsmith it and make sure it's
And
accurate.
get the drive-through out.
Okay.
Okay, and then ask, I guess I've already filed formally, so I guess what we would ask is at some soon meeting of the Board of Commissioners, that it be scheduled for a public hearing and sent to the Montgomery County Planning Commission, which has already reviewed it, I think,
It was
4 times.
Technically, everything's been preliminary with the county planning commission and with the CDC. We get the ordinance where we need to have it. And I would ask the commissioners if the applicants clean up, make the changes in the ordinance that we.
And then they would vote to schedule the hearing.
We'll do an official submission to the county planning commission. Up Moreland Township will be the applicant. We agreed to change our ordinance. It should be relatively quick. Generally, they want 30 days, but they're very familiar with this project and this text. And then possibly schedule a public hearing for some time in January, February.
That was our.
Because it's got to go to the APA. It has not gone to the
Math,
APA
right.
yet.
Yeah, we could go to the APA in December and have a hearing in January sometime. Gives plenty of time to
That's what
advertise.
Commissioner Lockhart?
I just have a question. So did we get comments from Montgomery County Planning
Yep,
Commission?
and they were all provided
Have we
to the-
seen them yet?
Yes, you have, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I forgot.
And just to,
I sent them to you again.
we've incorporated each of those comments. We sat with Claire, I think, twice, maybe 3
Yep.
times, I forget.
We did sit with the
So yeah,
county
everything
twice.
that she had, plus Kim's comments, were included both in the plan, and more importantly, for tonight's conversation, in the text amendment.
Right.
And now
Those
we're
comments,
taking a
Alex's
bunch out,
comments.
but yes.
Okay. So we'd have no agenda items for this topic for next month.
No, I don't think, it's got to go, it be tight to get it on December APA. So I'm probably thinking January APA. So it doesn't really need to come to committee.
So we're talking about a formal, about a public hearing for the ordinance in February then?
Yeah, the board can set a public hearing date at the regular meeting in January or February.
February,
First regular meeting in February.
yeah, I'm about that.
Yeah, my only suggestion is could we set the hearing in December to make sure there isn't a problem with the amount of.
That's why I'm talking about it right now.
Oh, I thought you said January, I just wanted to.
No, I said,
For the timing you're meaning.
Yeah, I don't want to come up with a
So
date.
we authorize it at the December meeting of the Board of
for
Commissioners
a February
for a
hearing.
February hearing.
Exactly. That's why I brought it up.
I can't, subject to that there's no major issues with the APA or the county.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If we have to, we get canceled. If
Yeah,
if
exactly.
we ran into a problem, but at least we're setting the time.
Yeah.
So we moved the hearing date to the December board meeting to vote for the hearing.
So it'll be a motion to authorize the public hearing
All
at
right,
the
in
December
February.
Board of Commissioners meeting or February.
All right.
Yep.
It's the best one.
That works for me. I'm relying on my
Yeah.
attorney.
Nice magic show, thank you.
Good rabbit you pulled out of that hat.
Siobhan was nice enough to email it to me this afternoon on my way here. So,
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving to
Enjoy the
you.
long weekend.
You get me the clean ordinance next week?
He can do it Thursday morning. He'll be free.
Okay. What do you think?
Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
I apologize for the paper, I won't be having it next.
Hey, I'm learning.
Now, I started already, but See. Okay. No, I'm gonna let everybody go through these reports first. We'll get to the school board. I got a little bit of an issue with that. Zoning ordinance update.
No real update at this time. We did meet last Thursday, and the Claire, community planner from the County Planning Commission, we're looking at either January or February quarterly update.
So the request at the last meeting when I personally was kind of shocked about, the recommendations from the county for more dense land development. I requested a figure from the county about housing and how many rental units we have in, our current residential concepts. Your zoning update was talking about, townhouses and,
Right, in the residential districts, right, and to allow multifamily in all our districts, and the board did not want to do that. So we took that information back to the County Planning Commission, and they updated the ordinance to not include.
okay. I was looking for that figure that they were using, to compare.
No, the board was adamant, they did not.
Okay.
So we,
Good enough. I thought we were going to have a revisit of that.
no, it's already out.
All right, thank you. That was easy enough. You have a problem with that?
I have no problems with it. It's done.
Talk.
It's out of the way. I'm done. It's done. You moved it. Good. Next topic.
No, I'd like to hear what you thought about that, because if.
I said what I wanted to say last time. I don't need to go through it again.
All right. Aren't you interested in the statistics if you feel differently?
I don't know how this happened. What are we doing?
I don't remember exactly how you felt about it. Were you pro for the density?
I think where we were concerned about it was what it was doing to,
All the people we said no to.
well, no. Well, yeah, I mean, that was part of it, but it was on-street parking, off-street parking, some of the areas where it was designated to happen. It just didn't feel like it fit into the fabric.
Okay.
So you were looking for the stats. I mean, I'm fine to still request the stats if you want them.
No.
The idea was to
I
not do
thought
it.
you were in favor.
No.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you the opportunity if you
No,
were.
yeah, I just,
'Cause I didn't think it was going away. I thought we had information coming back. If it's off the table, we're good.
yeah.
All right.
It was some kind of a setup or something.
Let's go right into code enforcement reports.
Okay, the
This-
committee
that last
has my October 2021 reports, and for comparison, they have the 2021 and for comparison, along with the 2022 monthly report. I have nothing to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
When I look at the township as a whole, I always worry about vacancies. We have some big store vacancies and we have some residential vacancies that are, I do see a fair amount of, a lot in my neighborhood, like we had the development on Broadway, a house was, getting flipped, for a better term, the resale of the property at Home Road, the new land development there. So I get concerned about what have we taken away from this pandemic we went through for 2 years about property maintenance and vacancies throughout the township? Do you see any trends there, or do you think we're doing okay?
Well, the property maintenance, that's ongoing. I mean, all we can do is educate people with that, and we do that in our newsletter twice a year. We rely on our residents, which they're great, notifying us of properties that aren't keeping them in accordance with the code. And as far as the vacancies, that's, I know you're talking commercial, you're talking residential.
Overall, I mean, I'm kind of shocked that we have a couple vacant properties that are on the commercial end that are still economically feasible, like they're still paying their rent, you know, and, but not all of them.
Yeah, we have a few. I mean, most of the, our shopping centers we have, they're not vacant for long. We do regularly issue fit-out permits for any vacancies in shopping centers that do come up. We got a couple up in Moreland and Blair Mill, where Lowe's is. Got some fit-outs going out there, got some fit-outs going at the Marketplace Shopping Center. Just a Farm Shopping Center. I don't believe I have any vacancies in there, so from that perspective, we're strong with permit issuance. So I don't see anything. We are extremely busy. I think all construction was put on hold due to the pandemic, and then now it's full steam ahead. So.
And that's what we're seeing. Okay. Anybody have any questions for code enforcement?
No.
Public Works?
Thank you. The committee has my report for October of 2022. I have nothing further to add, but we'll answer any questions.
Anybody want to have the conversation about automated sanitation?
I was just gonna ask where that's gonna sit. Is that this committee or is that SNA?
I think the whole concept of it starts here, and then, especially with Dave in the room, and then, you know, the financing of it or how we make it fit in a long-term plan goes to F&A. That's my opinion.
Well, I received some questions from Commissioner Valenza that I have to get information on, and then I guess I could present it here once I get everything.
So one of the things that you proposed was like the purchase of the trash cans first.
Well, the reason why, we have the tippers on the back, right? So the tippers are already on the back of the rear load trash trucks. So that would minimize the lifting of the trash cans that we pick up now. Now the guys are picking up, our maximum can is 50 gallons. These are almost double the size, and they can wheel them out to the truck and dump automatically with the tipper on the back.
So the whole idea about the automated trash is that, you know, you're right, and I've had this conversation with you 100 times, is the special pickups, and how we get to that. Because I know what this is talking about over here and where his head's at. And I think we have to evolve to it eventually, but we have to evolve to it with still providing the same services.
No, I understand that, and my thought was towards that. Right now, through the website with IT, there's complaint forms that are filled out, and they go to each department, right? So I already spoke to Matt Hocker about, can we do like a free permit kind of thing where someone has a bulk pickup, comes directly to Public Works, directly to my email or assistant's email, where we would see, okay, they have a special pickup, a move out, or they have couches, chairs that won't fit into an automated trash truck. We would call, schedule it. Usually it would be on that particular trash day. For instance, we're still gonna have to send rear load trash trucks out. Fulmer Heights can't handle another trash can. So we're gonna have to send a rear load trash truck out, and that would be a Tuesday. Well, on that Tuesday, when that truck goes out, that's when the other bulk pickups would be picked up, the larger, for Tuesday. Thursdays, we have certain areas, Church and Cherry Street from York to Moreland, they can't get another trash can. There's no room to store them. And just the farms on Fridays.
Right.
So 3 days out of the 4-day pickup, we're gonna be.
You have to use that
load
truck.
anyway.
Okay, the other concept is manpower or workforce. So we want to make sure that we have, because, I mean, one of the selling points about this is, less workforce. That's what we've heard. And we want to make sure that the workforce is adequate for the snow removal and leaf pickup. And you have to convince the Board of Commissioners that as this evolves to automation, we're not losing any of those services.
I can guarantee you won't lose any of the services. We'd actually have more employees on the paving crew and on leaf pickup if.
We went
Even if, when we went automated. Even if through attrition or whoever, I know Commissioner McFatridge doesn't want to lose anybody, even through attrition, but even if you did, we'd still have 3 more men or women on
the paving crew and.
paving crew and leaf crew.
Leaf pickup and snow removal.
And, well, my other problem was, and I looked, we have about 16 houses on the street. And Friday was our trash pickup. 6 of them, you would have had to send a truck out of the 18 of them.
Right.
And I mean, does that mean six people on that one block would have to send you an email to say?
Just like,
Oh, because you took a look at what they had at the curb.
Correct, that's what I did.
All right, cool.
Yeah, like a chair,
Wow,
stuff
well,
like
check
that.
that
That's
out.
what I looked at.
right.
That's my biggest.
So like, I have subscription based where I live, right? So if I have a chair or a couch that has to be put out, I can't just put it out. I have to actually call someone. An email and a response back within 24 hours would be great. But I actually have to call someone and say, hey, I have a bulk pickup, and you usually get one a month. So I think we're doing it on a weekly basis. I think that's over and above. I think it's still great service that we're providing.
And my feeling just was, when I checked the trash on my street the other day, is, so we're gonna send one truck up and down, up one side, then down the other side, and then send another one to get all the other stuff.
So,
Yeah, but he's going to be going in a completely different area, right? So no matter what,
What do you mean different area?
well, he's going to be on your road, he's going to be,
It's only gonna be in Ward 5.
No.
Oh, so
Five
you're
and-
saying you're gonna
5
spend
and
another
2.
day?
The one
with all of
truck,
it?
the one truck would just, the one rear load truck, once we went automated, with an automated trash truck,
Yeah,
would do all the bulk pickups for Tuesday's route.
okay,
So that would be Ward 5, part of Ward 5, part of Ward 2. And same with Wednesday's route, Thursday's route, and Friday's route.
so I understand the concept, and I think it has to, the conversation has to continue. Because I know eventually, somewhere down the road, it has to happen. And then there's an education thing, because people will be outraged when they see this change. And I'm concerned about the rest of the services, that we stay whole. I just want to make sure we talked about that, because I'm not real keen on using ARPA funds to pick up cans, and we got beyond that, I think.
I just threw that out.
You sure did. All right. Commissioner Skull.
I just have a question, Dave. I was driving on Buck Road today, and I saw a leaf pickup truck, and there was only a driver
On what road?
on Buck, in Warrington, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, there were no guys walking along raking or anything. It's just one guy driving the truck and some kind of device on the front that suck up the.
Right, some of them have that now, but I don't believe they're as large as our
It's a
vacs.
big truck.
Well, some of them have a truck with the vac connected to it, so it's one piece.
Right.
Almost like a sweeper truck.
That's what I saw.
With the hose, and you can operate it. It doesn't hold as much as we do. But you also still need a raker. So that's the,
I just wondered.
yeah. No, it is out there. I've looked at them, and I didn't think they would work for us.
Okay. That's my question.
Thanks, Nick. Any other comments, sanitation, public works?
Just a question for the community in general. How on schedule are we with leaf pickup?
We just started past 3 today. So we should be,
Perfect, it's spot on.
yeah, we're pretty good. Now, we had a couple down vacs that we're working to get fixed, but yeah, we should be finished on time and then maybe a little over the following week.
Okay.
Usually how it rolls.
Thank you.
Snow is in the forecast.
It sure is.
Buffalo. Okay, any other questions, public works, sanitation? Okay, we're moving right along.
Kevin, can I just say 2 seconds? Thanks. Sue Worthman, Man Ward 6. Can I just say, I think we had the finest Public Works Department, bar none. And I come down on Commissioner McFatridge's side about wanting to not throw any babies out with bathwater when we make these decisions. I couldn't but agree with the totes being able to be utilized for everything, save for the fact that everybody I know who has that system absolutely deplores it because they can't get everything in the can and half their garage has stuff in it week after week. And I hear from Abington about this. And all the people that have private pickup in Lower Moreland don't like that either because when it gets left, there's nobody like Mr. Osir's department that actually picks up a phone and says, we'll be right out. And you know what? You're right out. So whatever we do, and I know this is a really great group of people here in the room and up there who will figure this all out for us, just don't throw that baby out with the bathwater because we absolutely have something, excuse me, everyone else envies. We certainly don't want private. Certainly I don't. I felt that the increase in the fee that you provided for us was actually insufficient. I would have gone for a higher trash fee if I were sitting up there with you guys, because I think it's that valuable. I know what people pay for private, and they don't get half of what we get. So whatever we do, let's think about it really, really well, because it really, really works in Upper Moreland, and it makes us one of the finest communities around here, because trash is important. And thank you, Mr. Alcier.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Engineers report.
Thank you, Kevin. My November 2022 report is in your packet. I don't have anything specific to add, but would be more than happy to answer any questions.
So I have 2 subjects I'd like to just touch on.
Sure.
Changes that we need to make at Fair Oaks in order to alleviate our problem over there. And it's early, but what about the concept of what we can do for Sycamore and Parkside?
Yeah, so what we've been working on and kicking around an idea for Fair Oaks Park is to essentially try to put some kind of vault or structure in line with the pipe before it reaches the sediment portion of the basin to try to filter out as much of that sediment as we can before it gets into the basin. I think that part of what is going on is that the sediment forebay in that basin is functioning exactly as it should. It's just that there are there's no sumps and inlets, or, you know, the infrastructure leading to that basin is lacking by like a conventional standards. So I did, Pat Stasio, they cleaned it out one time this past year. We calculated how much of that, like the volume of sediment that was.
So we need a really big vault.
Yeah, we do. We need a really big vault, but I think it's probably more feasible to scale that vault down to try to like have it be cleaned out maybe twice a year rather than installing something with such a large footprint, that would need to be only cleaned out
Even
once a
more
year.
often than that, if it's easier to clean out with a vac truck and.
Yeah.
And a,
And then, in addition, I think that you can't really look at it like we want to catch all the sediment that was in that forebay, because that sediment forebay is there to catch sediment. So I just think that we can probably design something that would be in line, like I talked about, and it would help supplement what's there now, and then it would allow for the vegetation to grow in that forebay so that it can function in perpetuity the way it is intended to function.
okay. Parkside, oh, go ahead.
I don't know if Nick has something on
I
that.
had a thought about that
Okay.
today, and I was thinking one of the problems for the Parks Department is they have to drive their truck down the side of the bank there, and if you had some kind of a filter, it would be easier to clean than actually down in the basin. That was my,
This vault they're gonna build is outside the basin.
right, well, I'm above it, whatever.
It would be underground, it'd be outside of the basin footprint, and there would be either manhole lids, or Dave and I were potentially talking about inlet grates that would allow for the vac truck to get down and kind of maneuver around a little better. But yeah, it would be caught before it gets to the basin.
You're absolutely right. It would have to be accessible by a truck,
Right,
a heavy truck.
but it'd be easier than trying to drive a truck down into the basin.
Oh, yeah, we're not trying to do that.
Just a thought.
I might try to do that. All right.
Yeah, okay, and so Parkside and Sycamore.
So for people that don't realize, this is a house built in probably early 60s, and it takes the stormwater from my neighborhood and dumps it on somebody's lawn. And it's been doing it for years. And the sediment that builds up, and the pipe's not even functional. I apologize, I wanted to have a picture of it here, the area and the pipe itself. And it's been going on for years and years and years and years, and Dave's walked it with me. David Doty's walks it with me. Matt's been out there several times, and everybody, sees the issue. And we don't let anybody put their stormwater out in the street with new land development, and we're all stormwater conscientious now. And what we're doing now is taking the stormwater from a pretty big acre area and dumping it on somebody's lawn. So we're trying to get a fix for this, and it's tough.
Yeah, and so we
Now
went.
help me.
Yeah, now help you. We went out and we surveyed the property. We surveyed the outlet for the pipe, and then the swale that goes around this subject property that Kevin talked about. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of, or really any fall from the point where this pipe discharges to then get the water to positively drain around this property. So I can totally understand how there's a good amount of water that's there, and how it kind of probably lays there and then slowly sort of meanders down to get where it's supposed to be. There is a sewer easement from Parkside.
Fair Oaks.
Yeah, from Parkside to Fair Oaks. So it goes kind of through this property and then through a property that's behind it. One thought was could we put a storm pipe in that sewer easement and get this stormwater from Parkside to Fair Oaks? The challenge with that is that the nearest inlet in Fair Oaks is at, I think it's Carton.
Yep, Fair Oaks.
And it's 650 feet away from the rear of this property. So you'd have to extend storm sewer from Carton all the way up Fair Oaks to connect into this. So now it's become a bit larger of a project. And then, another issue with that is that what you would be doing is you'd be adding more stormwater drainage to the basin at Fair Oaks, which is, by all accounts, handling about all it can handle currently. So those are the challenges that we've kind of run into when we started to sort of peel back the layers of this onion. And it's a situation where the intersection at Parkside and Sycamore is like, it's in a bowl almost, and it's not a shallow bowl either. So you can't really take that drainage and move it any way up Parkside in either direction, because you're talking about like probably 10 feet of elevation change. So, I mean, we looked into it, and I unfortunately don't have a lot
Yeah,
of,
and I'm not looking for a quick fix for this, because if it's, you know, a rain garden there with an overflow that gets there eventually, it's a long-term plan.
Yeah.
I think we owe it to this neighborhood to stop dumping the water from another drainage region on a single person's property.
yeah, and I guess a rain garden or some sort of feature there would be possible. It's gonna take up, the yards are small in that neighborhood, right? And it's gonna take up a lot of that person's, the 26.
Not very useful the way it is.
Property. Yeah, no, I got it, and there's also like a good amount of mature trees and such that I would think are a benefit to the property. But if that owner, you know, wanted a rain garden instead of what they have, it's definitely a possibility. The one thing Dave and I talked about, if it was, like, I can't solve this, like the volume and the rate of the stormwater really at this point with anything easy. But if it was a like debris and sediment issue, like that last inlet before you get onto his property, right now the pipe comes in the bottom and leaves. It could be sumped down. It could be replaced with an inlet with a sump, and that inlet with the sump would catch like big pieces of debris and whatnot that would then just have to be cleaned out, you know, periodically.
Restore.
Yeah, well, as frequently as you can. I mean, the more you add, the less you can do.
So that's one concept of it, and whatever you did long-term, you would still want to do that anyhow.
Yeah, that would, yes, doing that now wouldn't preclude you from doing anything in the future.
So that's what I'd like to see happen, plus cleaning out what's already there, because that pipe's not functional. So where do we go from here for that?
I can talk to Dave about what kind of size inlet we would need to get to put in there with the sump. We'd have to do a one call to make sure that, I do think, just standing out there, that the sewer pipe probably goes directly underneath that.
I don't think so. I think it's beside it. Right?
Okay. It's close.
That would be helpful, yeah.
Yeah, so we'd have to do a one call to make sure we weren't gonna impact any utilities. And then we would, have to order an inlet box and put it in. As for cleaning out the pipe, you probably don't have an easement, but I'm sure the homeowner would welcome some of that silt being removed.
That grade's been changed over the years. I mean, obviously, the grade wasn't set to the top of the pipe that discharges there.
I have no idea how the grade was set. I would have never decided to put that pipe in there.
I get it. It's been a problem for a long time. Okay, so we'll look for that on an agenda next year for a fix.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else with the engineer's report? No. Public? Surprised. Okay. No, I did not review the landscape architect. I apologize. You have any concept on that? Let me see what we got here. I know that the landscape architect was working on a couple of the issues at Fair Oaks that were unfinished. Do we know about that, about the plannings coming back?
Yeah, the contractor came back, they fixed the punch list, and as recently as today, we authorized the final payment, which was like, there was $10,000 in that contract left that we were waiting for them to fix the landscaping stuff. It was a few dead trees and shrubs, but they were replaced.
We heard from Mr. Gary about the Willow Grove Shopping Center and some of those comments from Kim Flanders. I see on the landscape architect report, the 3827 Betts Road subdivision. We have any updates on that?
Plans are in for recording.
Okay. Still moving forward. Okay. Any comments? Oh, there you go.
I just signed them. They're good.
Okay. Very good. I'm surprised.
Did I sign them or the?
No, that they got that far. All right, very good. Our traffic engineer is very busy, and there's been a lot of activity. So we'll look for an update on that in January.
On traffic engineer, do we know, Dave, I guess this would be for you, are they definitely going to do Warminster Road Bridge this year?
2023.
Yep.
Now, right, and I haven't seen a utility activity out there.
Well, the same contractor's supposed to be paving Davidson Road.
Suddenly. Okay.
It was nice, the part they paved today. It just came down at Davisville Road.
They paved it today?
They paved the right-hand side from, almost my brother's old shop.
In 30-degree weather, they paved a state highway. Wonderful. Okay.
From the shop to York Road. A little bit down from Bull Road.
When do we think we're gonna hear about, the design options for Maryland Road Bridge? Do we have any idea? Is that probably January?
That's all McMahon. I would expect that to be January, yes. Anybody have anything to offer on that, you know? All right, we can look for an update, make a point of getting an update on that. I can even ask for, we need something from DEP on that, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't here last month, but did you guys discuss if you do the liner, you need not only DEP's approval, but you need FEMA's approval?
Right, so we thought that it was such a small decrease because FEMA permits 0, that that was the conversation in the room. They were going to request that be acceptable. And that was the last conversation we had.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if that's the process that you're going through, then it's not a 1 month deal. It's a pretty long process, but the way we were looking at it was the alternative of a full replacement was
millions,
two times, almost 3 times the cost of the liner. So it's worth going through the process, but it's a 6 month to a year situation, I think.
I didn't realize, we did not get that information, that whole review process would be that extensive. So that's good information to know, and I understand that nobody's going to work at the DP, you know.
He did say there's a lot involved in getting it, that it would.
Yeah, I know that, but I didn't think it was a 6 month process.
Okay.
I think you have a good case for it though, because you're literally talking about an inch of increase.
Right. And a substantial amount of stormwater improvements all the way around the region.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which FEMA's current model probably doesn't take into account. Thank you.
Okay. Environmental Advisory Council.
Hello. So most unfortunately, I gave you a lot of pages tonight. Of course, we're starting to plan already for Earth Day for 2023. We also talked about changes to Birdtown. Birdtown has actually changed the umbrella it's under, and so the logo has changed. The new logo is similar to the old one. It's in the report, but we need to change that on all the websites. We'll be getting 2 free new signs, and I'd like to see a couple more go up if we could at major points in the township, maybe near our Welcome to Upper Moreland signs. It would be nice to have Birdtown signs. So like to see that move ahead.
Do you know, sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, it's okay.
We'll talk point by point. Do you know how many of these signs we have in the township already?
I don't.
Some of them are private property, so residential houses too.
Yeah, you can get, and you still can, get certified as an Audubon bird habitat yard, but that's, and the signs were very similar, but that's a separate thing. It's not the townships. Do you happen to know? Yeah.
So I understand this, and I'm an advocate for it. Don't necessarily agree with entranceways as far as Birdtown goes, but we have two. Like I'd rather see a Birdtown sign where we have, a Birdtown environment. Like if we're able to achieve that eventually at Fair Oaks, if we get a Birdtown environment at the rain gardens at the middle school, I think that's where the appropriate applications for the signs would be. I mean, your concept of, gateway signs or entrances to the township, and get a Birdtown sign, and then next month you're going to ask us for the Tree USA sign at the same place.
Yeah.
I guess my next question was, are they proprietary? Do we buy them through this society, or is it something that can be made?
No, it's,
Public
they
Works
own
or
the
something
logo
like
and the rights.
Okay, so
So,
you
no,
purchase it directly through them.
it has to be through them. So,
But the idea is that, the people that have these signs are sharing with the community the whole Birdtown concept.
Right, yeah.
And that's, we started out there strong, and we're not quite as strong there.
Yeah, and I'm sure that a portion of the proceeds for the signs goes towards, facilitating the organization or rehabilitation of other Birdtown zones, something like that.
I think the idea of the Birdtown signs were to be at the entrance of a township, and then hopefully that would, and some of the education and programs would spur people to then get their yard certified. So, but.
That concept hasn't been as successful as it was pitched.
Yeah, well,
So I think we have to do something.
I think it's really being refurbished, or reinvigorated, and now that hopefully COVID's sort of let up, although I'm not sure, we could do some more education, because obviously for the last 2 or 3 years, we haven't.
Agreed.
Yeah, so, sure.
So I agree, we don't want a whole bunch of signs at the gateway, but I would like to see one sign that shows that we care about the environment and sustainability. I don't know whether it's Tree City USA or something, but I think it would be important to have one. That's all.
So where do you want it?
At the gateways. I would like one sign to the gateways.
So Birdtown at one and Tree USA at the other?
I don't know. I don't know which is.
Okay.
Or maybe neither, maybe there's something else, I don't know. But just
Sustainable
It's
cities.
important that we care.
Let's get our gateway signs up first, and we can revisit that.
It would also be interesting to know if they have parameters regarding how freestanding the sign has to be, meaning like, can it be on the gateway sign on one of the pilasters, and we can use the pilaster as a marquee for other signs? Like, can you have more than one sign on a post? Are there other rules?
They don't care.
Okay, just stick the sign up and.
As long as it's appropriate.
No, but yeah, I've seen these signs on like the channel that gets smashed in the ground, and I've seen the signs in other communities where it is part of a broader approach where there's a Rotary sign and a Birdtown sign, and Tree USA sign.
If the money we spend on these gateway signs, I would not want to see them on there.
No, not on it.
No, that's fine.
I'm not,
It's just a
Yeah, I
suggestion as
wouldn't.
something.
Yeah, I
But
wouldn't
with
put it
the
on it either.
agreement that we have with the property owners, are we allowed to have other signs there?
We have to go back and renegotiate agreement.
yeah, I'm not,
Well,
you know what,
another
where a nice
option,
place for a Birdtown sign would be, where, coming down Byberry Road, and like Mason's Mill might be a Birdtown environment. We have a ways to go to get there, but, you know, that would be welcome to Birdtown, you know?
another thought would be on the posts that are already up for music. The fact that, what's the term I'm looking for? Music capital. Music capital, those signs.
Okay, I know what it is.
Yeah, could, I know.
All right, so we'll have a conversation about that.
Yeah. All right, next one is the Outdoor Environmental Education Center. You should all have a plan in there.
We don't.
And hopefully, if you look at that, you go, oh, cool, and let us move ahead. So questions, comments? So the whole idea behind this is to help people learn about ecosystem services, environmental ideas, let kids come out and investigate outside instead of sitting indoors in front of a screen. And, yeah, I don't know if you've heard about the book Last Child in the Woods, but they talk about vitamin N for nature. And that's kind of what the idea is here, to get kids outside learning.
I think it's a great approach. I really liked the pavilion on the exterior as like a reading area or a learning zone, the teaching zone. The only question I had, I mean, I think it's a very diverse space with what you've got programmed here. How is it gated off on the north side? Because the plan's cut off there.
Right. Well, at one point, Matt Canlin said, don't put one there.
Okay. I was just questioning because you've got a gate and a fence down at the south
Right.
side.
Right.
So I didn't know if it was a secluded zone.
At this point, no, but could easily do that and would need to put a larger gate there so mowers or whatever could get in.
Yeah. No, I see it as a good, even just cut through passageway to explore for people who want to go around the building. So at this point, depending on how the library or how the township's depending to use it, I would say leave it ungated the whole way. But if it does start to become more of like a child-friendly daycare-like space, maybe then we'd want to talk about fencing it and gating it just for security purposes.
I guess our main concern was having a fence there along Park, just because it's a kind of a busy road.
Yeah.
And if we have young kids in there, we just wanted to keep them safe.
Understand. Okay, but it's not a lock gate. It's an open.
Lynette, either you can answer it, or I know Marcy can answer it without even looking at anything. Did we get the survey completed? We haven't done that yet.
Survey?
There you go. There's the answer. Okay. So, and that's been years that we talked about having the property survey.
Oh,
So
that type of survey.
I think before we move ahead with a plan, we have to know exactly what we're dealing with, and let's get the small stuff done first.
All right.
And I think we have to achieve that. Even to get a scale drawing, we have to know where we are. 'Cause, you know, I've been involved in conversations 5 years ago with this property and the boundary line, and where it moves and where it doesn't. So I recommend we get this surveyed, these two lines surveyed.
Is there, I mean, that's something we
It's
can
our
help the
property,
library
yeah, we
with,
can-
right? Like, because if that's the holdup, just let's do it.
It's not the holdup, it's, that's a money.
No,
issue.
understandable.
The whole thing's
Yeah, yeah,
money,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and we don't
But
want to
that-
wind up putting things in the
but,
wrong
I mean,
space, and we want to make sure that it drains properly. Sorry, I didn't realize that that was a void in the plan, so just let's move it
Yeah,
and get it
so
done.
I'd recommend we go forward with that piece first.
So who should we have do this survey? I mean, that in-house or?
We'll have to talk to, I forget exactly where the conversation was left off, but whether the library board had somebody was looking at that, but I think it's overall, it's a township property and we have to get those lines identified.
Yeah, can we authorize Gilmore to do it?
Yeah. You can. That's how it would
Can I
work.
make a motion?
Sure. You move that to the board.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like that. You okay with that?
Do we know what the funding stream is for this project? Or would we not even?
No, we're not there yet.
We got grants, right? Yeah, so we have donations and we also had a grant at one point.
Right, and the grant took care of some of the doorway, right? And that money's gone. Okay.
I think some of this is gonna need to be, I think a property survey, since we're talking about this and we're looking
Is the
at it
next-
holistically, it's something that we're gonna need when we redevelop the corners at Park Avenue and the
Yeah.
new road, like, just to have the full site surveyed so we have base plans for township use, I think is probably just a smart thing to do if we don't have that already.
Yeah, we don't.
So, we can get multiple uses out of that survey.
There will be ongoing maintenance costs for for this, so, and they did, Pat talked to his staff, and they thought about 4 hours a week, 4 staff hours a week that they would, actually, that they may have to do to maintain it.
Is that more than they're spending now?
Yes, that's in addition.
So I guess we were assuming they would mow and that's it, which they do now. Yeah,
All handwork.
Yeah.
for what?
Well, you have a gazebo, you have raised beds.
So you mean like trimming around them?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
When I say handwork, I'm sorry. I don't know how he figured it out, but I'm just looking at it.
Certainly, it's more intensive than what's there now, which is
Yes.
nothing, right?
Yeah, there is more in and out,
Yeah.
yeah. But we were assuming that it would only be mowing and trimming and nothing that they aren't doing now.
I like the plan. I've watched this plan evolve. It's more than it was years ago. And there's a lot of places to go, a lot of availability, but I think just to understand what our boundaries are is really important.
So the motion is for the entire property?
Yeah,
Or was it even
All the
more
way.
than that?
Not just.
it's time to get it done, yeah.
Okay.
Talk to Matt about it, see where we are, because
I'm just saying, if we're gonna do it, do the whole property, so we know the entire property.
we're talking about stuff all over the place here, and it's time to get that done.
If you want to get super crazy with it, you could extend it to the whole township campus.
That's what he's talking about.
That's what I mean.
Oh, you mean it for the township building also?
Yeah.
If you're gonna do the block, you
Oh, yeah,
know,
do it.
our
Yeah,
whole,
that makes perfect sense to me, sure.
We've got all this new definition.
Yep.
There should be a substantial amount of work already done
agree.
with the acquisition of properties and those boundary lines.
We've had surveyors out on this property before, like we staked the boundary line between those residential properties you built or you bought and demoed, and then that stuff along Easton. You're gonna need it anyways if you're doing any kind of like, you build any building anywhere.
do we have any monuments in the ground? They were just staked.
It was just like, we identified what we could have found and then
Is it worth
rotated
putting-
the boundaries in.
A monument at the corners and stuff.
No, I don't think we need to put monuments in. We could, no.
Steel
We would just,
Steel pens, probably.
identify what's there and give you an existing features plan, essentially.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay,
Okay, what else you got, Lynette?
all right, so were you guys gonna do a motion on that, or,
We're going to move it to the full board.
okay,
Yeah, I gotta give them a proposal and then the
Oh,
full
all
board
right.
can act on it.
okay. Then, of course, we also talked about the single-use plastic bag ban, and you guys had said we should go to businesses, but we felt that before we could go to businesses, we had to have something concrete that we were presenting to them.
Right.
Which is why I put a couple of sample bans in the packet, both Ambler and Different, and a long list have passed them, and so just kind of wondered, a lot of them have done not just the bags, but single-use plastic straws and also the styrofoam, because styrofoam is not recyclable and doesn't break down. It's just stays around forever. So just kind of wondered, again, where you guys might fall, so we knew where to kind of talk to businesses.
I appreciate the two examples. They were slightly similar, but also very different in their approaches, which is good. I'm all for this. I think we just have to read through these now and have a conversation. So if it was up to me, I would like to see it put onto an agenda to actually review these as a CDC. Lynette's done a lot of homework to pass it over to us. I think we should give the respect to review these things.
My firm has recently done it in the last 6 months for both West North and Haverford and Montgomery Township. It's just authorized an advertisement of this. I can forward you their drafts.
Okay.
And I guess my only thing on this, who's upholding this stuff?
Township.
I mean, they're having a problem getting done what they do.
People call into code, that's how it works. But there's not like someone set up to be the plastic bags on.
We rely on the community for those phone calls.
Well, you just stop the retailers from using the bags. That's how it works.
So let me get this straight. So this is going to be, code enforcement's going to enforce this plastic ban bag?
No. What happens, I understand that, so you tell the retailer no more plastic bags, right?
The code enforcement does.
The township does, makes it, so they're just gonna stop using them.
But I guess my question is, who from the town?
Yeah, they would call you. And,
Yeah, they
so
would.
say there was a complaint, they would call the zoning officer or the code officer and you write a citation. Like a violation of another township.
You can do that.
No, I don't think that's related to code enforcement, but that's,
Well, I think if it's an ordinance, right?
You think it would be what?
I don't think it's related to code enforcement, the plastic bag ban.
Yeah, I don't see it as a big, I don't see it as a violation issue. And
I can tell you in our other places, it's not like there's not a lot of complaints about it.
no, you're just not allowed to use them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, so are we gonna start taking shopping centers to court when we answer?
No, the shopping centers aren't allowed to purchase them. They're not allowed to put them out there for customer
The
use.
bigger problem,
if they do?
the big national chains, they're very used to this.
Yeah.
They're all, in other states, like New York, they haven't done it for years. So it's the smaller, places that are more the education is required. At least that's what I found in other townships. And so what they've done is after they adopted it, they've given like a 6-month grace period after they've adopted it before it like goes into effect. To allow for the, I'll forward this all to you.
Yeah, we'll review that.
Especially
One of the
all the
ones-
small food vendors.
Right.
Those are the ones that,
Those are the ones that they get from, like the Home Depot, they don't care.
Oh,
They're used
yeah.
to this.
Yeah, Wegmans has already said they are gonna quit supplying plastic bags. So,
One of the ordinances, I think it was the different one, it said it's 180 days for implementation, and then,
West Norton says the same.
yeah, there was a fine structure, basically. One time you get it, it's $100, and then it escalates up from there.
right.
And you're right, for the big chains, it's not a big deal, right?
There was
You do it
more
anyway.
smaller
The mom and pop shop getting hit with a couple $500 fines every once in a while because you're giving out a plastic bag, gonna change some minds.
Yeah. So if you noticed in the one, I can't remember which one it was, the businesses could charge if they give out, say, a paper bag. So
Yep.
that would help defray their costs.
the businesses. It said, I mean, in these ordinances, it said that the township doesn't recoup any of that money. That all
Right.
goes to the business.
Right, right. So it would help, like I said, those businesses recoup costs for bags that might cost them more, but are totally recyclable and biodegradable, which plastic isn't.
So you talked about styrofoam. Is that incorporated in the same?
And for
ordinance?
these ordinances, it is. It's plastic straws, single-use plastic bags, and styrofoam containers. Is in both of these particular ones, and I believe a number of the other ones have that same thing.
Ours, the ones I've done recently didn't do much over the straws, it's single-use plastic that I can check.
Yeah.
But different townships have different.
Yeah, I'd rather take a slower approach and incorporate everything that's included. You know, I personally, I'd rather see a fee for the bag and that money go to the environmental issues, but it hasn't, you know, there's been a couple challenges to this and.
No, but the challenge, they won.
Yeah, right, and they did win, that's what I mean.
We were, in Haverford, we were part of the legal challenge to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. We won.
So the road is paved for us.
Who's collecting the money?
The business.
Yeah, the business takes care of it.
And notice in the one ordinance, it said if they do provide a plastic bag, it has to be listed as a separate item on the receipt. Provided bag, 15 cents.
Sorry, it wasn't plastic bag, it was.
Paper bag.
Right, if they provided a bag for the person,
yes.
yeah, that it had to be on the receipt, that they provided a paper bag for 15 cents.
So I'm okay with moving this out, but I'd like to see how they incorporate the styrofoam. Like, how's that? Like, I don't want to come back a year from now and have to revisit that.
They were in these.
It's
sample
in those.
I know they are. I know.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
saying
in,
the
yeah,
examples of those ones,
ordinance.
like.
Yeah, okay.
okay, all right.
You want this as an agenda item on the CDC in the future, in January?
Yeah, we're still considering that one agenda item for this week about December 12th meeing.
Right, I'm just saying,
No, this ordinance.
this ordinance, you want it to come back to CDC?
Yeah, back in
next
CDC
meeting.
in January,
Okay.
right now.
And then there'll be a draft ordinance if it's acceptable that goes out.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then also, we were talking about energy efficiency, and of course, we're going to be redoing the township building and probably building a new police station. Really, really, really would like to see them be really energy efficient. There's a building method now called passive building, and I gave you a website there to go and look, and it just talks about making the building, again, just really energy efficient, so it needs very little heating or cooling. Of course, it costs more to build, but it pays for itself every day of its existence. And so we'd really like to see that incorporated into any plans, if at all possible, even parts of it. And so that would, make us a more energy efficient township. And of course, solar panels would be great too. I just did some.
Good for you.
So again, would like to really see that considered. I'm not sure where that needs to go to help make it happen.
We haven't even gotten to the point where we
Haven't even-
didn't do a project yet.
Oh, I know that. I know at one point, some, options were presented.
Okay.
And they were all too expensive, right? So they sent them back to the drawing board, as I recall.
Right.
Yeah, so, but now we've got millions in a grant, right?
We've talked, all of us have talked many times about how we make this more of a sustainable building. And so I can guarantee you that concepts are in play when we get to those stages, and we'll assess it in whatever capacity we can. Because you're absolutely right. Some of these things are fantastic in the long term, but cost prohibitive up front. And so we got to weigh those options.
Yeah. All right, and then I sent everyone the link to go to the meeting that was put on by the Montgomery County Planning Commission about return on environment, and a couple commissioners asked me to report on that. Most unfortunately, they had terrible technical difficulties, and I was trying to watch it on Zoom. But what I got is listed here, that if you have open space nearby, then home values are higher if they're in a half a mile or less of it. So like Pennypack Trust is a huge asset. Higher home values, of course, lead to higher property taxes, and green spaces absorb stormwater and therefore reduce maintenance costs and water pollution. They generate jobs on the preserves or in the parks, and parks, of course, help certainly count as green space as well. So people spend more time in an area with more green space, maybe even come there because of that, and more time spent or in an area usually means more money spent. So might, end up going to a restaurant or something. People who have access to green spaces are healthier and less stressed. And I think as we saw with COVID, it saved some people's mental sanity. Ecosystem services, of course, are also provided by green space, as there's cleaner water, cleaner air, less sediment, so on and so forth. So that was the main takeaway from that meeting. And the report is, again, I gave you the website on there. All right.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions for Lynette in the AC?
Nope, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
How are we doing with the student?
We have a student who's been attending,
Right,
so I think we're good.
okay. Glad to have that. Thank you, Lynette.
Mm-hmm.
Upper Historical Commission.
Thank you, Commissioners. You have my report for tonight from our last meeting. Coming up, we are thanking you all for the budget. I was there Saturday for that, and looking to 2023. Obviously, the Historical Commission's always looking forward, rarely looking back when it comes to things that we can do. So I just, in the first paragraph of the report, talked about what we want to do in 2023. A lot of deed research, because we've gone back and we realized a lot of our research was based on, visual considerations and, ideas that might have been a sentence or half a sentence long. So we have an opening for doing that for an entire month coming up in 2023. And hopefully we'll be able to use it. It's an expense now to be able to get into the county deed, inventory. So we want to place a lot more houses in the inventory. We understand, we've read our own ordinance, how this works, that there has to be historical reasons for being on the inventory. But we do believe that there's, the idea that when we took down Dubray, and I was alive when it came down, in 1967. That's the Manor House, one of the oldest homes in Montgomery County. The commentary from administration was that George Washington had never slept there, and the wrecking ball came, and that was the end of it. And we've gotten so far beyond that, thank heavens, that just one of us was there. One of us regular people slept there is good enough to make it significant when you recognize the contributions that we all make to our community. So we're looking for that kind of information now. Who were these people and how to put it together in a good narrative for 2026, which is actually where we're all going on the Historical Commission. We are going forward to go backward. So that said, that's going to take up quite a bit of our time and effort in the beginning of the year. And we have more because we have newer, younger, thank you, Anthony, people in the township who are interested in their homes, who did live here before me. I'm only a second owner of my home myself. And so I'm, aware of the history of my own home. and some people have significant history in their home. They date back to the 1914, 15, particularly the Ferguson tract that we're looking at now. And we're trying to come up with a way to look at our first suburban tract, since it was a pre and post World War I development. So all of those homes come into the 100-year understanding of what it would be significantly historical to start with. Some people have asked us to look into their homes for them. So they're coming forward to say, hey, you know, we hear you, and we like that idea a lot. We're really going to want to encourage that. So that swings us into media outreach, and that swings us into one of our other major projects, which is getting our website back up again and getting our media presence back online. We do have Mike Lavecchio, member at large. He's done a tremendous amount of work to get us reestablished. I know most of you know that when a website goes down, you just don't press a magic button and ask somebody to bring it back up again. We lost our content. We'll never do that again, by the way. That's what happens when you don't quite know how to move something from point A to point C. And we kind of had that issue, and we had to deal with it. So we started from scratch, and we now have B Marketing out of Warminster. I got that wrong. It's not Warminster. Commissioner Pucci?
I don't remember what.
Telford. Telford. Telford, thank you. That just came to me. That is helping Mike develop this and working with us around it. And we have used some of our funds from this particular year to pay for that. And that will allow us the freedom to have not just a picture of one of our houses and then 2 paragraphs about it, but a dynamic, interactive ability for anyone to be able to get in and look at various homes. We can do a lot with it that you might imagine. You've seen it where a home comes up and an area comes up and an overlay happens so that you can see that. This is what it looked like here. I know Lansdale does a lot of this work. I listen to a lot of people around this general area, and you'll see, here's a picture of what it looks like today, and here's what it looked like then, and you can do an overlay. We'll be able to do that, and people in the township will be able to do it just by going to our website. Now, that's a little Star Wars at the moment, but we're working towards that. So we're working hard towards that. And I know you probably don't want to hear this at this hour of the night, but those signs will be done and they will be up. Prior to my departing. Yes, sir. I was going to say that's probably why I got up here and said what I said earlier, so that you wouldn't put them on my front lawn. Yes, the signs that are currently in storage at Public Works, sir.
So treasure signs, they know what they're doing, so I can drop them back off?
Not yet. Okay. No, we'll work together on that one so that we get the optimal time of delivery, even if I have to come and get them from you.
No, I would gladly deliver them, I just want to know when, that's all.
Gosh, yeah.
Don't give them back yet, or you're gonna get them back in your life.
Yeah, it's like the ransom of Red Chiefs. Let's not do that. So thank you for storing them. I really appreciate it. We didn't know that was going to happen. I would have given you a heads up if I'd gotten an email, but I didn't. Sorry. So that's where we're at, as the saying goes. Do you have any questions, concerns, or things you want to share about where you think we should be going with this project? Because we're going to hand some of it back to you all. Commissioner Prusi, maybe you want to pick up on that comment.
Yeah, well, no, I was going to say that's a conversation that we still need to have as a group, as a board, is how we continue the sign project forward once these 3 are up and out of the hands of the commission. We started that conversation, and we need to revisit it at some point next year to develop a plan for the rehab, the 15-year life cycle basis.
Yeah.
We've had about 4 more, if we were going to finish the ones in this loop.
Yep, and some of that is through developer contributions and other media in which we can gather funds for those signs.
Yeah,
for
things
the
in which
project
you
as a
have to
whole.
make the decisions and we can help with making the product.
We have to also believe that we have a concept that everybody's on the same page and we're all going in the same direction before we try to generate a funding source so that there's a fluid transition.
Yes, couldn't agree with you more.
There's a lot of work to be done there before we get.
I don't know about the lot part. I think we're a lot closer to that. It's just a matter of agreeing to what those signs should be. You know, I look at Cherry Street and I have the significance of David Cherry at the beginning and why that street bears his name. We have the old school that Settlement now sits on.
Yeah, I don't
we
think,
have
I don't
other
think we're
places.
talking about the philosophical parts of it. I think we're talking about the business end of it, about, okay, what's the text going to be and who's going to okay the text? You know, that seems to be a point of conflict. And we don't want that conflict.
I don't think that conflict is going to continue. What is interesting to me is that when I dug back into the actual fire, for instance, because this particular sign about the Red Lion Inn is what started a lot of, well, not controversy, differences of thinking back and forth, is that the townships, you know, the fire company came out of that fire. We had no fire company here until that fire happened. And we looked at that and we made a decision that we should probably put, you know, 2 signs on that property because it is probably the basis of the Red Lion Inn that forms the basis of the Willow Inn. And I've read the people who were alive in 1906 and were there at the fire. David Rush was one of them, and from his family I got and I think I shared this with you, I got the diary where he talks about that. So we have some specificity there that we'd really like to make sure is clear both ways. But, you know, email is great, but when you go back and forth with 4 or 5 people on the same email chain, you might lose translation. So I think we need some face-to-face. But when all is said and done, I think we'll get it right this time. And people will be happy. They'll be pleased at the outcome.
Yeah,
so I think we're beyond any contentiousness.
Over the years, I know personally, I left the fact checking up to other people and just took their word for it, you know, and now we have a farmstead that used to be called Boileau.
Exactly.
You know, so.
But good people thought that, and that's where the
I get
issue
that. I understand that.
kind of-
Totally understand that.
Yeah.
So I didn't put enough value on that myself. So we have to make sure that that value is there and that it's a smoother transition.
Fair. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, Commissioner.
I'll give you one correction. You said Mike Lavecchio worked for the marketing of Telford. It's marketing of Trooper.
Trooper?
Yeah.
Got the T right?
Well, that's.
You're the one who submitted it. I don't know if you just.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask the Historical Commission to consider rewriting their ordinance. An ordinance was written in 2000 or 1999. It hasn't been updated. I don't know, Paul, have we ever had a house that was going to be demolished that that would have applied to? I don't think so.
We have a list of all the homes on the register, so if someone wants to come in.
No, what I'm saying, what the ordinance says is that if somebody is going to demolish their house, they have to get a permit from you to demo it, and you have to notify the commission of that. I don't think that's ever happened, no? So,
When did we demo a house that was on the commission?
well, exactly. So, well, the point I'm making is that it's not a lot in the ordinance. And even if you,
Rebel,
if you do,
take
even
down
if
a
you do,
cottage.
if you do demo, you're gonna demo your house, But you are going to demo your house, and the commission can come to you and say, well, here are some uses. You can make a bed and breakfast out of this. You can, make a tea house, it could become a doctor's
Well,
office.
that conversation better have been explored long before somebody's applying for a permit for demolition.
Well, that's not what happens, though. I mean, that's not how the ordinance is written. And you can't tell people to do that. All I'm saying is, I think the ordinance ought to be looked at, and you're suggesting designating an area as historic. Maybe that could be in an ordinance. I think there are a lot of other things that would be more helpful to keep our homes preserved.
So, look,
than what's in that ordinance.
we're redoing the historic commission right now just for the membership of it. So.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
Well,
ordinance.
then, get these facts together right now and be more specific about what you're talking about, so that we can incorporate that if we're going to. If not,
I'm not asking myself to do it, I'm asking the historical commission.
I understand
To
that.
consider rewriting the ordinance, bring it up to date.
Okay, what's the specifics? That's what I'm saying. Like, give me a list of the specific
Yeah, I
things.
guess I don't understand when you say bring it more up to date, what
Well,
you're referring to.
Put some teeth in it. The only teeth in it is.
You know what?
we've
I
never
saw
been-
that before, and we were scaring people away. About if they wanted to put windows in their house, they had they get my house off the register. That's where it
Well,
went.
that's how it's done, and well.
No, it's a very interesting point, Commissioner Spearing. We had that conversation in our last historical commission meeting about how we get people back to be on the list.
Yeah.
Because there are people who are pulling themselves off of the list because they're nervous about the restrictions that are part of the ordinance or that are part of the meaning of being part of the historical registry.
Or they don't even
So-
know what the ordinance says.
Well, sometimes, Commissioner Skull, it doesn't matter what it says, there's the optics of what it could say. And so
I've been there with
there's part of our thing, especially with the website right now, is like everything else we do around here, it's educate the population so they see something as a positive and not a negative. So there may be some time in the not too distant future where some interesting ideas could come out of the group that could be put towards the ordinance. At this point, I think though, we're really working on
Anthony.
getting that out there. I don't understand what you're
In the
asking.
25 years of this ordinance, we've lost all the historic buildings in the downtown except the Aaron Ford building. That's my point. So maybe it's a time to look at the ordinance and put some more teeth in it to save anything that's left.
We did have the historical, association walk through the building.
Oh, I know.
Where the station will go.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe it shouldn't have been built in the first place if we had an ordinance with some teeth in it. I mean, that's on a large scale. All I'm saying is we ought to be moving towards an ordinance that has some teeth, other than saying, you can have a tea house.
You make some interesting points, and I think, I think there's a holistic look that needs to happen, because, we're talking two distinctly different developmental languages for our township and downtown, between a modern walkable downtown and a historically preserved downtown. So I think as a group, we should identify what that aim is, and I think we've sort of gotten there already, and then work through what that means for a historical ordinance. Because an ordinance with teeth in it is gonna be,
Get my house off the registry.
yeah, it's gonna be very restrictive towards development too.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I want.
You sound like a developer.
I want people to be attracted to the historical commission and to having their house in the registry.
Well, wouldn't it be
The
nice to be-
benefits of- But you can't force people to do it. You can't force people to not demo a building because there's
Well,
millions of dollars.
how does it happen in the community that they have a historic district and they do have rules about it? How do you think it happens?
Sure, so there's rules about historic districts, about what you want to do and how you go about it.
Right.
But
Well, our district is an
So
overlay.
our historic district would have to be an overlay.
It is an overlay.
I understand that.
But it's not an overlay. I know this is gonna sound nasty, and Susan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think our historical overlay has any historical significance. So there's the history of what was there, but all of that is gone. So if we're gonna look at a historical overlay district and we wanna create a historical zone, then we need to as a group, identify where that is and then
Right.
start preserving from that.
And that's what I'm asking the commission to do, to update our ordinance, at least get some ordinances from other townships to see what they say and how we could update ours.
Okay. All right, interesting thoughts.
Should we postpone the changes for the membership of the Historical Commission?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm thinking more long-term.
Okay. Homework for the Historical Commission. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank
We'll
you.
get some-
We'll pick it up
We'll look
then.
at some existing ordinances and see what we can do.
And we'll define better what we mean by historical area and how to honor that historical area in terms of the Ferguson track so that we're on track for it. Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we have one single agenda item left. Request by Upper Moreland School District for waiver of fees on improvements at the middle school. Did we see the improvements at the middle school?
We had one permit application in, we're still waiting on additional information, still waiting on sprinkler, plumbing, electric, we have a generic building permit application.
Yeah, I'd like to see more about what's happening there before we actually decide to
I
waive.
just sent an email to the school district, informing them that the representative.
Okay. All right. So that being said, do we have any outstanding business that has to be conducted in December?
The only thing I'm going to say with the school district is we don't have a problem with waiving the permit fees for township costs, not engineers and all the other stuff and that. It's just, you're just asking, we would like to know what the project scope is.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is it you want to do there? And
What are we?
waiving permit fees? Yeah, I like, exactly.
Can let the board know that they are gonna make some alterations to a special education room, put a new bathroom in. Building permit fee alone, approximately $2,800. Again, we're still waiting on plumbing, electric, and sprinkler, so I really can't
Right.
give you an idea of what those costs.
You got my message then. That's what I'm looking for. Like, what is the fee that we're waiving and what's the concept behind it? Yeah. Okay. Very good. So I don't see any activity that would require a CDC meeting in December. You? You? No. Okay.
No.
Ixnay.
Do you want the school district back on for January?
January, yep. And if it's a pressing issue, we can hold it in another committee meeting. I'm okay with that. Anybody have any objection to that?
You can still refund it even if they
Right.
do, so it doesn't matter.
Tried in the past, that they provide the permit fees, we issue the permits, and then they come back
Yeah.
for the waiver and refund.
Yeah.
That was ugly. Okay. Any commissioner comments?
Just thank you from Kiwanis. We put the tree up, we had the ceremony, and they thank you for the, all the employees as far as the police blocked it off for us. Parks and Rec was there to help with a couple items, and the fire department.
Any comments?
Yeah, speaking about historical things, the Historical Association is having a fundraiser on Saturday, December 10th in Honeygrow. So if you order over there, 10% or 20% of your purchase comes to the Historical Association, which is pretty awesome. And then on Tuesday, tomorrow, they have an event at the Public Library Community Room, one of their lecture series.
Okay. Thank you very much for those announcements.
And thank Matt for our computer systems. Somebody that's illiterate, I made it through the meeting.
There you go. You're better than me. Thanks.
Good work.
It's enough. You don't know what I was looking at.
And the batteries made it.
Yeah, that's impressive too.
Yeah. All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.